Chapter 898. Song Qing-shu smiled faintly. Madame's ability to remain calm is admirable, admirable. Having taken advantage of her earlier, Song Qing-shu felt it was inappropriate to continue staying in the same bed with her. He kicked Wan Yin-ting to the side and lightly leaped back onto the ground. Since you did not expose me earlier, it proves that you are not from the Jin Kingdom's imperial court. I have nothing to fear. Tajkis pulled at her slightly loose clothes and tidied them up before turning around and looking at him curiously. Who exactly are you, young master? Song Qing-shu shrugged his shoulders. My identity is a little sensitive. I can't seem to find a reason to tell you. Tajkis immediately choked. One must know that with her beauty that could cause the downfall of the city, regardless of whether it was in the Ming dynasty or later in the Jin Kingdom, countless heroes and warriors were captivated by her peerless elegance, prostrating themselves before her. In front of her, every man could not wait to wholeheartedly fawn on her. Who would be like this person who did not even answer a single question? Zishan Long Wang. Song Qing-shu sized her up and couldn't help but ask curiously. I remember that you should have returned to the Persian headquarters with Zhao. Why are you in the Jin Kingdom? You know Zhao. Tajkis was finally somewhat moved. We've known each other spiritually for a long time. Song Qing-shu recalled that in the hearts of the men in his previous life, Shuang, and Zhao were publicly recognized as the best candidates for wives. They had indeed known each other spiritually for a long time. Then why haven't I heard Zhao mention you? Tajkis looked at him suspiciously. Among the people Zhao knew, the only one who was so young and had such a high level of martial arts was Zhang Wuji. But if it was Zhang Wuji, she would definitely recognize him. You will often hear her mention me in the future. Song Qing-shu smiled. How did it become you asking me questions? Let's get back to the main topic. Why did you change from Zishan Long Wang to Madame Peach Blossom? Why should I answer you? Tajkis was previously choked by him. Now that the tables have turned, she similarly replied. Because you are now my captive. Song Qing-shu replied matter-of-factly. Madam, it's better to combine them. I'm afraid you can't take the torture with your delicate skin. Tadish's face flickered slightly, but she quickly regained her composure. She pointed to her surroundings and chuckled. Do you have any way to torture me here? Song Qing-shu replied indifferently. Of course I have my ways. Tadish was slightly startled. The confidence in the other party's tone caused her to waver. However, no matter how she thought about it, she couldn't figure out how the other party would be able to torture her in the emperor's bedchamber. At the very most, she could just casually shout and lure the great Qing nation over to engage in a life and death struggle. Thinking of this, she became even more certain. I'm not a 3-year-old girl. How can I be scared by you like this? Is that so? Song Qing-shu stepped in front of her, scaring her into hurriedly taking a step back. What do you want? Tadish's expression instantly turned unnatural, thinking that if the other party were to harbor any malicious intentions, she would rather lose her years of hard work than to allow him to have his way. Madame's eyes are like 2 sparkling sapphires, truly too beautiful. I can't help but stare at them a few more times. Song Qing-shu calmly stared at her. Lecture. Tadish's face turned slightly red as these words surfaced in her mind. However, perhaps due to the fact that the other party's tone wasn't vulgar or for some other reason, she realized that she wasn't as angry as she imagined. Instead, she unnaturally turned her face slightly towards another direction. How much longer are you going to stare? Seeing him standing there, the skin on Tadish's neck reddened as she spoke with some annoyance. Until Madam looks at me, of course. Song Qing-shu replied. Look at you? Tadish suspiciously turned her head back to look at him, only to come into contact with a pair of deep, pitch-black eyes. After executing the soul-shifting technique on her while she was unprepared, Song Qing-shu secretly heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that foreigners and Chinese people weren't much different. Previously, he was worried that the martial arts of Chinese people would be ineffective against foreigners. Where did the real Madame Peach Blossom go? Song Qing-shu's first question. I'm the real Madame Peach Blossom. Tadish replied somewhat woodenly. How is that possible? Song Qing-shu frowned. One must know that the Wan Yin Xian brothers had fought over Tao Yao over a dozen years ago. At that time, Tadish was probably still the Purple Dragon Queen. Aren't you the Ming Dynasty's Purple Dragon Queen? How did you become Madame Peach Blossom? If he wasn't clear about the state of having his soul shifted, Song Qing-shu would only think that she was lying to him. Because of Qinya, Tadish replied. Qinya? Song Qing-shu was puzzled. He suddenly thought of a person. Your husband, Han Qinya? Yes. Tadish nodded. A trace of gentleness appeared on her charming face, as though she was recalling the past love between husband and wife. Why did you become Madame Peach Blossom? Because of him. Song Qing-shu was getting more and more curious. Back then, Qinya was ostracized by his family. He had no choice but to accept a dangerous mission. Knowing that he had a slim chance of survival, he decided to first go to the Radiant Empire to avenge his father. In the icy azure lake, Tadish continued to narrate the story of how they met and fell in love. It was similar to what Song Qing-shu had learned from the Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber. What kind of mission did Han Qinya accept? Song Qing-shu asked curiously. In the original work, Han Qinya only appeared once. Most of the time, he was only mentioned occasionally. Although he was not a minor character, he was not much different. The reason why he was remembered by so many people was mainly because he married the world's most beautiful woman, the Ming Dynasty's Purple Dragon Queen, Tadish. Although his presence was not strong, judging from Tadish's tone, there seemed to be more to it. Tadish explained softly. Qinya is the descendant of Song's famous minister, Han Qi. His uncle, Han Xingzhou, wielded the power of the Southern Song dynasty. Han Xingzhou was a very ambitious man. He wanted to conquer the Jin Kingdom and restore his homeland. However, the Jin Kingdom was strong and prosperous, and the time was not ripe for the northern expedition. Moreover, the Southern Song dynasty's pro-war and pro-peace faction did not give way to each other. Therefore, Han Xingzhou decided to let Qinya come to the Jin Kingdom first. But he went directly to the Radiant Empire? Song Qing-shu asked. Yes. Tadish nodded. He could not let go of his father's past enmity. Therefore, he changed his path and went to the Radiant Empire. Later on, I betrayed the Ming dynasty for him. At this point, a gentle light shone on her face. She did not feel any regret. Chapter 899. Puzzled, Song Qing-shu asked, Aren't the two of you living in seclusion on Lingxi Island? Lingxi Island is just a cover. We didn't stay there for long. However, there are times when we roam Jianghu and need an identity. Therefore, we husband and wife assumed the names of Grandmother Golden Flower and Mr. Silver Leaf from Lingxi Island. Tadish explained, Small seclusion in the wilderness, big seclusion in the city. Hiding in the Jin Kingdom is indeed a good idea. Song Qing-shu couldn't help but praise. Having obtained his approval, Tadish smiled, instantly lighting up the room. Qinya and I arrived at Daxing Prefecture. By chance, we met Wanyin Shi and his younger brother Wanyin Yuan, who hadn't become the emperor yet. Both of them seemed to adore me very much. After discussing with Qinya, we decided to disguise ourselves as brother and sister and deliberately approach the two. Their status in the Jin Kingdom is very high. Firstly, we could use them to accomplish Qinya's mission more conveniently. Secondly, by hiding among the Jin royal family, even if the Ming dynasty were to find us in the future, we would have the ability to protect ourselves. Therefore, you married Changsheng Wang and became Lady Peach Blossom? Song Qing-shu had a strange expression on his face. This Han Qinya was truly magnanimous, allowing his wife to marry another man? That's right. At that time, Qinya and I were discussing who to marry. Coincidentally, we learned that Wanyin Shi was about to inherit the throne. We were worried that things would be inconvenient in the imperial palace, so we chose Wanyin Yuan. It's laughable that the two of them were jealous of each other, thinking that I loved Wanyin Yuan more. Even though Tadish's mind was currently being controlled, the disdain in her cold smile was still evident. Song Qing-shu pondered. You felt that Wanyin Yuan was easier to control? Tashtish nodded slightly and said, That's right. On our wedding night, he barged into the bridal chamber with an impatient expression. But considering my status, how could I allow such a stinky man to take advantage of me? Therefore, I used the Western region's sleeping smoke to knock him out. This strange Persian drug could even cause him to hallucinate, making him think that something had happened between us. Song Qing-shu glanced at Wanyan Xian, who was lying on the bed with a silly smile on her face and drool dripping from the corner of her mouth. The Western region bewitching smoke that she mentioned should be the pink smoke that had just come out of her mouth. Wanyan Yuan was really unlucky. He thought that he had married a beautiful consort for more than 10 years, but from start to finish, he had never touched her body. Later on, I found an excuse to return to his fief. At that time, Wanyan Yuan loved me dearly and was worried that his brother Wanyan she would covet me, so he immediately agreed. However, he holds an important position in the imperial court and has to stay in the capital most of the time. This way, Chiba and I can live together in his fief. Tadish continued to explain. Even Song Qing-shu felt some sympathy for that ever-victorious king. His head was almost as green as a grassland. Wait a minute, that doesn't seem to be considered green. Tajtish and Han Chiba were husband and wife to begin with after thinking about it. Song Qing-shu could only sigh, the circle of nobles is really messy. That period of time was the happiest of my life. Unfortunately, not long after, Chiba was poisoned by the Western region Duda. We went to seek treatment from the butterfly bone fairy doctor, Hu Qingyo. Unfortunately, he refused to save her, saying that he wouldn't treat anyone outside of the Ming dynasty. Chiba didn't last long before she passed away. A trace of hatred appeared on Tajtish's face. However, later on, I finally found an opportunity to kill Hu Qingyo and his wife to avenge Chiba. Song Qing-shu nodded. According to the plot of the Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber, Zhang Wuji was suffering from the cold poison of the Xian Ming Divine Palm at that time and was seeking treatment in the Butterfly Valley. The whole plot matched. However, he was more concerned about the Western region Duda, who poisoned Han Qinya that Tajtish mentioned. In his previous life, there were many analyses on the internet about this. The most reasonable speculation was that the Duda was the Ku Duda that the right emissary of brightness, Fan Yao, had hidden in the Ruyang Palace in disguise. Fan Yao was also smitten by Tajtish back then. He was proud of his extraordinary looks. Coupled with his high status, even Yang Dingtian and his wife thought that they were a match made in heaven. Unfortunately, Tajtish rejected him. That was fine. Due to the Persian central religion's rule that the saintess must remain a virgin for the rest of her life, Fan Yao could understand, even though he was depressed. Who knew that Han Qinya would appear later on? Regardless of appearance or martial arts, he was far inferior to Han Qinya. In the end, Tajtish fell in love with him without any hesitation. In order to marry him, she even betrayed the religion. How could the proud and arrogant Fan Yao stand it? His jealousy turned into hatred, and he plotted against Han Qinya. Song Qing-shu didn't know if this was the truth, but he had no interest in redressing Han Qinya's injustice. He continued to ask, but I received news that the Ming dynasty of Persia came. After the Battle of Spirit Snake Island, didn't you and Xiao Zhao return to the Persian central religion? Tajtish nodded. Xiao Zhao is my daughter. According to the religion's rules, she automatically inherited my former saintess status. In addition, when the leader of the Persian central religion passed away, the people of the Persian central religion invited Xiao Zhao back to be the leader. It was also because of this relationship that I was spared the pain of being burned. After we returned to Persia, we found that the situation of the religion was not optimistic. The Mongolian army had gradually destroyed the countries of the western regions, and even threatened the safety of the Persian central religion. We sent out countless experts in an attempt to assassinate the Mongolian leaders. Although we killed many Mongolian princes and generals, we were unable to harm their Khan, Temujin. Song Qing-shu was shocked. He didn't know how much blood and tears were contained in these simple words of hers. It was no wonder that the death rate of the Mongolian leaders in this world was so high. The second generation of the Golden Clan was almost completely wiped out, leaving only Temujin and a few princes of the third generation. It seemed that the reason why the Western Siam marriage selection was delayed was because of Su Liewu's serious injury. However, One could imagine how many experts the Ming dynasty of Persia had to sacrifice in order to assassinate so many Mongolian leaders. Sure enough, Taj-Tish's words confirmed his conjecture. For thousands of years, the Persian central religion has maintained its position in the western regions. Even the duchies and feudal lords of Europe are scrambling to curry favor with us and act according to our will. The strength that the central religion has accumulated for thousands of years is far beyond that of the Ming dynasty of the Central Plains. There are countless experts in the religion. However, in order to assassinate the Mongolian leaders, the religion has lost almost all of its experts. Even the previous religion master died in battle. When Xiao Zhao and I returned to Persia, the situation of the religion was already extremely difficult. I suddenly remembered the arrangements that I had made in the Jin Kingdom and decided to return to the Central Plains. I wanted to use the Jin Kingdom to restrain the Mongolians and give the religion a chance to breathe. Song Qingshu suddenly frowned and asked, "Did you not receive any instruction from the revered Ming?" Since the revered Ming had borrowed the body of Zhang Wuji to be reborn, he would definitely not sit by and watch as his base was destroyed by the Mongolians. He would definitely think of a way to contact the religion. The revered Ming? Taj-Tish was shocked. Did the revered Ming send an oracle? It's nothing. Continue. Song Qingshu shook her head. It seemed that she didn't know about this matter. Perhaps she just happened to miss the news when she came to the Central Plains. Chapter 900. So that's how it is. Song Qingshu nodded and asked a few more questions regarding the Persian cult, to which Tadish answered. Seeing that there was nothing more to ask, Song Qingshu snapped his fingers and awakened Tadish from her transcendent state. Unlike the various countries of this world that were constantly fighting and scheming against each other, Song Qingshu, who came from the future, understood how powerful Mongolia was. Thus, in his heart, Mongolia was the ultimate boss. The current Jin Empire and Manchurian Qing could only be considered as elites. There was no need for them to harm the grand plan of resisting Mongolia for the sake of immediate benefits. Although Tadish was a member of the Ming dynasty, Song Qingshu currently needed the Ming dynasty to stall the Mongols. In a certain sense, Tadish was on the same side as him. Back at Blackwood Cliff, he could even temporarily let go of revered Ming, let alone a mere purple robe dragon queen. What did you do to me earlier? Tadish stared blankly for a moment after regaining consciousness. She tried her best to recall what had just happened, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't recall anything. She could only recall the feeling of being unable to refuse the other party's request. She subconsciously took several steps back and stared at the other party with a horrified expression. Song Qingshu laughed involuntarily. Why are you clutching your chest? Did you think I would seize the opportunity to strip off your clothes? I'm not that tasteless. Besides, it's not like I didn't see it earlier. Tadish blushed. It turned out that she had secretly inspected her clothes to ensure that they were intact. What did you do to me? Don't worry, I didn't do anything unfavorable to you. Song Qingshu paused. Seeing her doubtful expression, he added, We are not enemies, at least not for the time being. You just need to remember this. Then who are you? Tadish stared at him in astonishment. Song Qingshu pushed open the window behind him. Just as he was about to leave, he heard her question and couldn't help but pause. He turned around and smiled. My surname is Wang. You can call me next door Old Wang from now on. After that, his figure flashed and disappeared into the night sky. The Qing Kingdom was on guard on the other side. Although there were quite a number of guards on this side, with Song Qingshu's lightness skill, it was difficult for those ordinary guards to detect him. Old Wang for next door? Tadish muttered to herself. Why is this name so strange? Could he be from the western region? But he doesn't look like one. Song Qingshu was very familiar with the imperial palace of the Jin Kingdom. He knew where the hidden sentries were and how often the guards patrolled. If someone were to observe from the side, they would only see a ghostly figure strolling leisurely in the imperial palace, giving off a strange sense of elegance. It didn't take long for him to return to the Hall of Peaceful Harmony, but he found that Empress Pei Man had already fallen asleep. He woke her up in a bad mood. For your sake, I've ventured into a dragon's lair and a tiger's den, but you're sleeping so soundly here. Empress Pei Man slowly woke up. Looking at the man standing by the bed, she giggled. You also know that as the Empress, there are palace maids and eunuchs following me at all times. Only by sleeping can it be convenient to send them away and wait for your return. Don't be angry. How did the investigation go? A dignified empress was begging in front of him. The honest Song Qing-shu was quite proud of himself. As you expected, Madame Peach Blossom was taken to bathe and change clothes by the palace maids the moment she entered the palace. After that, your husband threatened her with Prince Chongqing's life, and she complied. Song Qing-shu told her what had happened in a few words. Of course, he wouldn't tell her everything. Instead, he concealed Tadish's identity, and the rest was half true and half false. In any case, in Wan Yinting's heart, she also thought that this was the whole story. Tao Yao, that slut. I knew that one day this foxy woman would seduce His Majesty. Empress Pei Man gnashed her teeth. Song Qing-shu frowned. Looking at the whole matter, Madame Peach Blossom is also a victim. Your husband, the Emperor, is the instigator. Empress Pei Man leaned over and asked, Isn't Madame Peach Blossom very beautiful? Tadish's graceful figure and beautiful appearance appeared in Song Qing-shu's mind. He subconsciously replied, She is indeed very beautiful. Empress Pei Man couldn't help but snort. I knew it. This foxy woman is the best at seducing men. Ever since she came to the capital, all the men around her couldn't help but fall in love with her. Even you are no exception. Song Qing-shu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. A woman's jealousy was truly terrifying. If it really came down to it, although Tadish had bewitched a few men, she had no choice. Furthermore, she didn't do anything to let her husband Han Qinya down. On the contrary, Empress Pei Man's actions were more like that of a foxy woman. Sensing his disapproval, Empress Pei Man felt extremely vexed. She reached out and pulled Song Qing-shu's hand. Don't leave tonight. Accompany me. Song Qing-shu inwardly thought. Just now you called her a foxy woman. This change in attitude is a little too fast. Empress Pei Man gritted her teeth. My husband is currently having sex with someone else's wife. Now that he is having a great time, I also want him to have a taste of his wife having sex with another man. Song Qing-shu originally didn't have much interest. However, after a few words from her, a nefarious fire was ignited in him. Since the Empress had already extended an invitation, if he were to refuse, wouldn't it be too shameful for her? The room was filled with the finest sandalwood incense. In addition to the unique fragrance of a woman in the bed, Song Qing-shu's body and bones quickly softened. Empress Pei Man bit his ear and said with a silly smile, Young master, you have to work hard. I need to get pregnant as soon as possible and settle the child status. Otherwise, a long night is fraught with dreams. Who knows if that foxy woman Tao Yao will benefit from it? Over the next few days, a series of events occurred that shocked the court officials. Due to Wan Yinshui's previous actions, they originally thought that the emperor was going to make a move against Wan Yin Yuan. Wan Yin Yuan's escape on the day of the birthday banquet gave the emperor an excuse to make a move. Even Wan Yin Yuan himself thought so he fled to his fief that very night. However, not only did Wan Yinshui not punish him, but he also issued a series of imperial edicts to comfort and reward the Chongqing prince. At the same time, some of the officials who were close to the Chongqing prince were also promoted, causing the court officials to scratch their heads in confusion. Some of the more well-informed people already knew that Madame Peach Blossom had entered the palace one night. They immediately understood Wan Yinshui's abnormal orders. After all, this wasn't something to be proud of, so those who knew about it didn't dare to go out. Most of the court officials were still in a state of confusion. They had originally wanted to beat the emperor when he was down, but now that the two brothers had suddenly reconciled, the court officials who had been cheering for the emperor couldn't help but worry. Clang. Chapter 901. It was clear that Wan Yinliang was one of the few people who knew what was going on. Although he was lustful, beauties were nothing more than playthings to him. He would not be blinded by lust and delay his plans. Wang Yinliang could not help but feel angry and disdainful when he saw that Wang Yin's son was so mesmerized by Tao Yao that he was soft-hearted towards the Chongqing prince. "Your Highness, please don't be angry." Xiao Yu comforted him. "It is precisely because Wang Yin's son is not someone who can accomplish great things that you have a chance." Wang Yinliang's anger immediately turned to joy. "That's right, this prince likes to hear that." Xiao Yu smiled and continued. "Your Highness, to get rid of the Chongshang prince, it is only a matter of time. There is no need to get angry. Infinity greater than over equal to 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 infinity plus square root for all. How can it be so simple?" Wang Yinliang frowned. Wang Yin's son likes Tao Yao so much, and Tao Yao is not a woman without principles. The two of them must have reached an agreement. Wang Yin's son treats the Chongshang prince well, and in return, Tao Yao obeys him. Thinking of Tao Yao, Wang Yinliang became indignant. The Wang Yin's Sun brothers had actually taken the lead. When the prince ascends to the throne, he will definitely hold Tao Yao in one hand and goodbye in the other. That will be the happiest thing in the world. Seeing Wang Yinliang's perverted expression, Xiao Yu did not need to guess to know what he was thinking. He could not help but cough and remind him to get back to business. "Does your Highness think that Wang Yin's son likes to have Tao Yao in secret, or does he prefer to bring her to the palace openly?" "Of course he wants to bring her to the palace and play with her as he pleases," Wang Yinliang blurted out. Noticing Xiao Yu's expression, he could not help but smile. But Tao Yao is Wang Yin's son's sister-in-law. How could he bring her to the palace openly? Under normal circumstances, it would be impossible. But what if something special happened? Xiao Yu's smile was extremely strange. Special circumstances? Wang Yinliang raised his eyebrows, unable to contain his interest. Didn't the Chongyi army's military governor, Udai, recently report a rebellion? Xiao Yu reminded him. "That's right, I remember this incident. However, the scale of this rebellion wasn't large, so it was quickly suppressed. The military governor of the Chongyi army, Udai, was one of Wang Yinliang's trusted aides in the army. When he mentioned him, Wang Yinliang couldn't help but think of his beautiful wife, Madame Tang. He didn't know why, but every time he thought of her in the past, Wang Yinliang couldn't help but want to press her down. But recently, when he thought of her, he didn't have any reaction. Maybe he was tired of playing. Wang Yinliang didn't care too much about it. He didn't know that it was because Song Qingshu had transferred his soul back then that he could no longer have any interest in Mrs. Tang. Tang Quobian is such a green-haired tortoise. I've toyed with both his sister and his beautiful wife. Wang Yinliang couldn't help but laugh when he thought about it. Xiao Yu coughed and continued. The dossier on this rebellion hasn't been submitted to Wang Yinshui yet. We can use this opportunity to eliminate the Chongshang prince. How do I operate it? Wang Yinliang was shocked. Like this. Xiao Yu leaned over and whispered in his ear. Wang Yinliang frowned. Do you think Wang Yinshui would be stupid enough to believe such an obvious accusation? Your Highness, please be at ease. The only reason Wang Yinshui can wantonly play with his brother's wife is because he is the emperor. If one day the throne falls into the hands of the Chongshang prince, how could he not seek revenge for such humiliation? That's why Wang Yinshui is most afraid of his brother inheriting the throne. Even if he knows that the Chongshang prince has nothing to do with the rebellion, he will still pretend to believe that the Chongshang prince is the mastermind. Xiao Yu said confidently. In addition, there's another reason. If the Chongqing prince is executed for the rebellion, then the Chongshang prince's wife, Tao Yao, will become a criminal. Wang Yinshui will be able to take her into the laundry brothel. The laundry brothel is in the palace. Even if he takes Tao Yao to bed every night, how would outsiders know? Xiao Yu and Wang Yinliang glanced at each other, their mouths full of smiles. Wang Yinliang put himself in Wang Yinshui's shoes and made some deductions. Realizing that Wang Yinshui was indeed very likely to make this choice, he couldn't help but be overjoyed. Xiao Yu, you really are this prince's reincarnation. When this matter succeeds, this prince will confer you the title of king of the Shi tribe. The Liao could be divided into three factions. One was the Imperial Yalu clan, the other was the Empress Shao clan, and the last powerful faction was the Shi people. Back then, the Liao had almost been destroyed by the Jin kingdom, and a large number of its nobles had been captured. In order to change their fate, the captured Liao people had secretly sought refuge with Wanyan Liang. Although Shao Yu's surname was Shao, he was an outstanding member of the Shi people. "Many thanks, Your Highness." Shao Yu bowed. Wanyan Liang couldn't see the strange light in his eyes. The ever-victorious prince, Wanyan Yuan, had run back to his fief like a stray dog. He had wanted to take his wife and flee far away, but he found out that Tao Yao had already gone to the capital. Counting the days, it just so happened that she had arrived right after he had left the capital. Although he was afraid, he had always loved this beautiful wife of his, so he resolutely decided to take the risk and return to the capital. While he was still on the road, he received an imperial edict from the emperor. Not only did it not mention a single word about his crimes, he was instead rewarded handsomely. However, Wanyan Yuan wasn't happy at all. Instead, he thought of a certain possibility, and his heart couldn't help but sink. Riding at top speed, Wanyan Yuan finally arrived at the prince's mansion. When he saw his wife, Tao Yao, he couldn't help but want to go forward and hug her. Tadish had long since become adept at dealing with these affectionate actions. Without a trace, she moved away, causing him to grab onto empty air. Taking advantage of the fact that he hadn't said anything, she ordered the surrounding servants to leave first. Wanyan Yuan's heart trembled. He knew that his wife wanted to discuss serious matters with him. After the servants left, he finally couldn't help but ask, "Did you go find that person?" Tadish deliberately sighed. "If I didn't go find him, how could you still be standing here in peace?" "Then did he do anything to you?" Wanyan Yuan's voice trembled slightly. Tadish indifferently replied, "Your Highness has experienced so many things. How can you still have the delusions of a 3-year-old child?" Wanyan Yuan was immediately enraged. "That beast really bullied you. He bullied me. What can you do?" Tadish calmly gazed at her husband in name. Wanyan Yuan was momentarily speechless. "That's right, what can I do? The other party is the emperor, the ruler of a country. A single imperial edict can behead me. What can I do?" Tadish sighed and continued, "You must be mentally prepared. In the coming days, he will summon me to the palace every few days." Wanyan Yuan revealed an expression of disbelief. He abruptly stood up. "Wanyan Shi, that bastard. He's going too far." Chapter 902. Rebelled. Wanyan Yuan's body trembled. Although he was extremely dissatisfied with his elder brother, he had never thought of rebelling. After all, their branch had always been small in number. In addition, after King Wei's death, he was the only successor to the throne. Thus, he was filled with fantasies. Although they were not a real couple, Tajtish was well aware of her husband's temperament. She knew that unless she forced him into a dead end, it would be difficult for him to make up his mind. "It's fine if you're afraid. I'll serve His Majesty well in the future and ensure your safety," Tajtish calmly said. The reason why she wanted to take this opportunity to force Wanyan Yuan to rebel was because the situation of the Persian headquarters was getting more and more critical. She had to take control of the Jin kingdom as soon as possible. Compared to Wanyan Shi, Wanyan Yuan was obviously much easier to control. Moreover, when Wanyan Yuan became the emperor, she would be able to become the empress. At that time, she would be able to influence the Jin kingdom strategy against the Mongols. On the other hand, if she directly relied on Wanyan Xian, their relationship would appear to be indecent. Her identity would never be revealed, and her influence on Wanyan Xian would naturally be limited. Provoked by his wife, Wanyan Yuan's face alternated between green and red, and his breathing became rapid. Tajtish quietly watched him from the side, not disturbing him. After a long time, Wanyan Yuan took a deep breath and said, "Wanyan Xian has gone too far. Since he is heartless, he cannot blame me for being unjust." Tajtish smiled and said, "I really did not marry the wrong man." Hearing this, Wanyan Yuan became spirited and said, Your Highness, please contact your trusted subordinates as soon as possible and gather enough power to control the situation in the capital. I will then act as a spy in the palace and coordinate with the outside. Wanyan Yuan frowned and asked, "Do you still want to enter the palace?" Tajtish ran to his back and squeezed his shoulder, saying gently, "What we need most now is time. If I stay by Wanyan Xian's side, not only can I numb him, I can also monitor his movements." Seeing his unsightly expression, Tajtish sighed and said, "Since ancient times, those who achieve great things do not bother with trifles." Even though Emperor Gaozu's wife and father have fallen into Xiang Yu's hands, he did not waver in the slightest and finally succeeded in his great cause. "As long as you don't mind my body being dirty after you ascend to the throne, I'll be satisfied." Wanyan Yuan hurriedly said, "Madam, why do you say that? Didn't you do all of this for me? If not for you, I would have been executed by that beast Wanyan Shui long ago. If I despise you in the future, wouldn't I be worse than a pig or a dog?" With Prince's words, Tao Yao feels much more at ease. Tadish had an agitated expression, yet her heart was incomparably tranquil. Many years of living in disguise had caused her emotions to be as calm as an ancient well. But there's another problem. Wanyan Yuan suddenly frowned and said, "The Xing kingdom by Wanyan Shi's side is unfathomable. Even if we can catch him off guard, the Xing kingdom will be able to protect him and evacuate safely. Once Wanyan Shi organizes a counterattack, all our efforts will be in vain. Don't worry, Prince. I have a way to deal with the Xing kingdom." Tajtish clapped her hands. Suddenly, 3 figures flashed in from outside the door, giving Wanyan Yuan a fright. Wanyan Yuan focused his gaze and saw 2 men and a woman. Their appearances were worlds apart from the people of the Central Plains. The tallest man had a curly beard and blue eyes, while the other had a yellow beard and an aquiline nose. The woman, on the other hand, had a head full of black hair and looked no different from a Chinese person. However, her eyes were extremely pale and almost colorless. She had an oval face and looked to be around 30 years of age. Although she looked strange, she was actually very beautiful. The 3 of them are friends I met in Jianghu. They call them the 3 emissaries of Feng Yun and Yu. This is Lu Yun Shi, this is Miaofeng Shi, and this is Hui Wei Shi. If the 3 of them join forces, the Xing kingdom will surely perish. When Tajtish returned to the Central Plains this time, Xiao Zhao was worried that her mother might be in danger. Therefore, she sent the 3 Persian emissaries to accompany her back to the Central Plains. The 3 of them learned the strange martial arts from the Sheng Hualing, which were worlds apart from the martial arts of the Central Plains. Previously on the Lingxi Island, even though Zhang Wuji's Jiuyang Shan Gong, Qianken, the Tai Chi sword, and other martial arts had reached the advanced stage, he was still beaten into a sorry state by the 3 of them. He even forced Zhao Min to use a move that would perish together with him. Tajtish pondered that no matter how high the Xing kingdom's martial arts were, it was impossible for them to surpass Zhang Wuji's. With the 3 of them joining forces and herself, eliminating the Xing kingdom would not be a difficult task. Hearing Tajtish's explanation, Wanyan Yuan was overjoyed. With this, our chances of success have increased by several notches. When he first met Tao Yao, he already knew that she and Han Xinya were brother and sister of Jianghu people. Therefore, he did not doubt her judgment at all. Tajtish smiled sweetly, but in her heart, she was wondering who the man she met in the palace was. In the future, she would try her best to keep the 3 emissaries by her side, lest they fall into that man's trap again. Meanwhile, in the prince's mansion of Hailing, Wanyan Liang and Xiao Yu were also talking about Song Qingshu. "You mean to let Tang Kua Bian be the chief judge of this rebellion case?" Wanyan Liang looked at Xiao Yu doubtfully. "That's right." Xiao Yu nodded. "This case is of great importance. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that Prince Changsheng has been wrongly accused. If His Highness's own people were to step in, it would inevitably arouse criticism. But Tang Kuobian is different. Outsiders don't know that he has pledged allegiance to His Highness. Moreover, he is the Emperor's son-in-law. When the time comes, no matter how Prince Changsheng is dealt with, others will only think that it is the Emperor's will. Brilliant. Wan Yin Liang slapped his thigh. This scheme of using a borrowed knife to kill is really brilliant. It even allows me to wash my hands clean of this matter. All right, it's decided. I'll start working immediately and let Tang Quobian be the chief judge of this rebellion case. Meanwhile, Song Qingshu didn't know that he had already been targeted by 2 groups of people. At this moment, he was planning to go to the secret chamber to see this special criminal. Zhao Min was sitting on the bed, holding her knees in a daze. Suddenly, she heard the movement from the exit. She jumped up like a rabbit. Looking at the man who came in with a faint smile on his face, she said angrily, "Song, you're such a jerk." Song Qingshu was shocked, but he didn't show it on his face. "Song, has Miss Zhao become muddle-headed after being locked up for so long?" Zhao Min sneered. "Don't play dumb here." Song Qingshu patted his head and put on an expression of sudden realization. "The Song Qingshu you mentioned is the Golden Snake King Song Qingshu you mentioned when you interrogated Zhongjia, right? Miss, you can't forget him. It seems that he must owe you a lot of money." Hearing his answer, a trace of doubt flashed across Zhao Min's face. She said coldly, "He owes me more than I can repay in this lifetime." Chapter 903. Song Qing smiled and said, "That person can't repay you in a lifetime, but I see that when you mention him, you don't seem angry. It seems that you intend to let that person repay with his body." Zhao Min's face turned red. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Song Qing smiled and didn't answer. He looked around the secret room and didn't find anything unusual. Zhao Min was really an extraordinary person. If an ordinary woman was locked up for so long, she would have gone crazy. "Miss Zhao, are you living well here?" Zhao Min rolled her eyes and said, "Why don't I lock you up here for this long?" Song Qing was also a little apologetic. As a noble lady, she had never suffered like this before. During this period of time, she had been so busy that she didn't have the time to pay attention to her. Fortunately, she remembered to send food and water to her. Otherwise, she would probably have starved to death. "These days, I have been a little inconsiderate. If you have any requests, you can tell me now. As long as I can do it, I will satisfy you." Song Qing said, "If I ask you to let me out, will you promise me?" Zhao Min smiled disdainfully. "Except for this." Song Qing shook his head. Zhao Min was silent. Just when Song Qing thought that she was using silence to express resistance, she suddenly said, "I want to take a bath and change clothes." "Ah." Song Qing didn't react for a moment. He imagined that Zhao Min would take this opportunity to think of various ways to escape, but he didn't expect that her first request was to take a bath and change clothes. "Didn't you hear me clearly? I want to take a bath and change clothes." Zhao Min said angrily, "After being locked up by you for so long, my body stinks." Song Qing thought, "I just passed by you. How can I smell?" But he also knew that women always love cleanliness. Even if they don't take a bath for a day, they will feel uncomfortable. "Well, you wait." Song Qing stood up and looked at the entrance of the secret room. He couldn't help but frown. "It's too narrow here. I'm afraid it will be difficult to move the bathtub in. Then go to the room above," Zhao Min said, as if it was a matter of course. "The room above?" Song Qing frowned. Zhao Min had always been mischievous. Could it be that she was up to something this time? "Your martial arts are so high. Are you afraid that I will run away?" Zhao Min seemed to have guessed his thoughts and said directly, "That's good. Wait here for a while. I'll go get the servant girls to prepare some hot water." Song Qing hid Zhao Min here because he was worried that the news would leak out. Therefore, he did not allow anyone to come in contact with Zhao Min naturally. Outsiders would not be able to get any information. After a while, Song Qing led Zhao Min out. Zhao Min quickly walked to the window and pushed it open. She took a deep breath of fresh air and revealed an intoxicated expression. "I can finally see the light of day again. The fragrance of flowers and grass is really nostalgic." Song Qing pointed at the steaming hot bathtub and said, "The hot water is ready for you. Take a bath." Zhao Min was stunned. "Wait, are you going to do it here?" "Nonsense," Song Qing said in exasperation. "If I'm not here to watch, what if you run away?" Zhao Min's small face alternated between red and white. I'm a girl bathing here, and you, a man, have the nerve to stand at the side and watch. There's a screen there. If you pull it over, won't I not be able to see? Song Qing said disapprovingly. Of course not. Zhao Min's face was completely red. When she bathed in the Ruyang Palace, even the servant girls were not allowed to stay in the room, let alone a man. If the other had evil intentions, this broken screen would not be able to stop him. If you don't want to wash, then forget it. Song Qing walked to the front of the bathtub and looked at the steaming hot water. However, the servant girls have worked hard to prepare such a large tub. It would be a waste to dump it. If you don't want to wash, then I will. As he spoke, he pretended to take off his clothes. If you want to wash, then wash yourself. A trace of joy appeared in Zhao Min's eyes. After he took off all his clothes and soaked in the tub, she would immediately run. I don't believe that he would dare to chase me naked. Song Qing glanced at Zhao Min and saw through her thoughts. Don't have any schemes. Since you don't like it, then go back to the secret room. Zhao Min snorted. Who said I'm not going to wash? Move. She walked to Song Qing's side and pushed him out. When she thought about returning to that dark secret room, she shuddered. But you really can't stay here. Seeing Song Qing frown, Zhao Min hurriedly added, After all, men and women are different. I hope that sire can understand. If you're afraid that I'll run away, you can have your wife stay here to watch me. Song Qing pondered for a moment. He knew that it was indeed difficult for her to stay here. Okay, he asked Zhao Min to hide first. Then, he went to the door and called for a maid to invite Gobai over. Gobai was already nearby, so she arrived quickly. Seeing the legendary first beauty of the Jin Kingdom, Zhao Min couldn't help but be dazed for a moment. There's such a beautiful woman. Tang Quobian is a bastard, but he has such good luck with women. While Zhao Min was looking at Gobai, Gobai was also looking at her. In fact, when Zhao Min was sent to the secret room after she fainted, Gobai had already seen her. Now, although her face was a little more haggard and pale, it still couldn't hide her stunning beauty. What's the relationship between her and Qing? During this period of time, Gobai and Song Qing knew that they were just a fake couple. However, their life was no different from a real couple. They ate at the same table, slept together. Thinking about it, Gobai's pretty face was dyed with a layer of red. Get out, get out. Seeing that Gobai had come, Zhao Min immediately drove Song Qing out. Okay, I'll go right now. As soon as Song Qing's voice fell, he sealed several acupoints on her body, and then said to Gobai, Now that all her power has been sealed, her strength is even less than that of an ordinary weak woman. You just need to be careful, and don't be afraid of her. If anything happens, call me in, and I'll guard outside. All right. Gobai smiled sweetly and said, She's a girl who wants to take a bath. Why are you being so wishy-washy here? I'll take care of her. As Gobai spoke, she pushed Song Qing out, and then quickly locked the door. Then she turned back and smiled at Zhao Min. Miss Zhao, now you can rest assured. Zhao Min softly nodded. Looking at the steam in the bathtub, she could no longer hold back the desire in her heart. She glanced at Gobai, but still blushed and untied her dress. Gobai only felt that the room was full of light and couldn't help but praise. Miss Zhao, you really have a good figure. I wonder which man will be so lucky in the future. Chapter 904. Gobai's heart trembled when she heard this. She blushed and answered subconsciously, Why did he tell you this? Gobai was not stupid. She was just confused by Zhao Min's unexpected question and didn't respond for a moment. When she saw Zhao Min's shocked expression, she suddenly realized, You lied to me. Zhao Min smiled and said, Don't blame me for this, sister. Gobai suddenly stood up and bit her lips. She was most worried that her carelessness would affect Song Qing Shu. The more she thought about it, the more worried she became. She hurriedly turned around and trotted out, Qing Shu. Hey! Zhao Min wanted to stop her, but Gobai wouldn't listen to her at this time. She ran out without stopping, leaving Zhao Min to groan inwardly. She was now soaking in the bathtub. If Song Qing Shu came in, she would bump into him. She hurriedly looked around for clothes, but everything was prepared in a hurry. There were no clean clothes around. Looking at the dress that had been taken off, Zhao Min frowned slightly. She was a clean person and didn't want to wear it again. Of course, if it was another man who came in, she would put on old clothes even if she didn't like it. However, it was Song Qing-shu who came in, so she subconsciously didn't resist so much, so she was a little hesitant. Just as she was hesitating, Song Qing-shu rushed in after hearing the news. Zhao Min let out a soft cry and immediately shrank into the bathtub. She hid her body under the water, leaving only her head above the surface. "I'm sorry, I was careless." Goodbye followed behind Song Qing-shu and was still hurriedly apologizing. Song Qing-shu smiled. "You don't have to blame yourself. Miss Zhao is as cunning as a fox. How could you possibly be her opponent?" But Goodbye's heart was still filled with guilt. "It really doesn't matter. Miss Zhao and I are old friends. It's not a big deal if she finds out my identity." Song Qing-shu saw that she was still worried and couldn't help but say, "How about this? You go and prepare a change of clothes for Miss Zhao. I'll have a good chat with her." Goodbye nodded and walked away, feeling uneasy. Seeing Goodbye leave, Zhao Min bit her lip and said, "Send her away. Now there's only one man and one woman left. Do you want to take advantage of me?" Song Qing-shu returned to his original voice and said gloomily, "If I really wanted to take advantage of you, I would have done so long ago. Why wait until now?" Thinking back to everything that had happened since the two of them met, she had to admit that the man in front of her had indeed had many opportunities to take advantage of her, but he had very gentlemanly given up. Zhao Min couldn't help but blush and snort. "Take off your annoying mask. It looks weird." Since she had already seen through him, there was no need to continue pretending. Song Qing-shu directly took off his mask. Looking at the familiar face in front of her, Zhao Min sighed and said, "You're really something. You put on a big beard, and no one in the entire Daxing manor recognized you." Tranquil's disguise is so obvious. Seeing that Zhao Min didn't realize the subtlety of his disguise, Song Qing-shu wasn't stupid enough to take the initiative to explain. He was worried that if he continued to dwell on this issue, she would find out sooner or later. He immediately changed the topic and said, "To be honest, I admire you more, princess. I thought you were cunning enough to trick me with words. I didn't know that it was just a cover. You've been targeting Goodbye since the beginning." Of course, Zhao Min proudly raised her smooth chin and said, "It's impossible to get anything out of an old fox like you, but it's much easier to get something out of Goodbye." As she spoke, Zhao Min's expression suddenly changed and her tone became a little unfriendly. "I don't know what you did, but the first beauty of the Jin Kingdom knows that you are Song Qing-shu, but she still treats you as her husband. I'm afraid you've been enjoying all this time. Personal charm, I can't help it." Song Qing-shu shrugged and made a helpless expression, which made Zhao Min's teeth itch. "What's wrong? Are you jealous?" Noticing her expression, Song Qing-shu laughed. Zhao Min's expression changed slightly. "Why would I be jealous? I'm just fighting for Zhou Zhiruo." "You're fighting for her?" Song Qing-shu looked strange. "When did you become so close to her?" "I just think that Zhou Zhiruo and I have been fighting openly and secretly for so many years, but in the end, an outsider has taken advantage of her. I'm not happy." Zhao Min snorted and turned her head away. "Really?" Song Qing-shu looked at her with a faint smile. Zhao Min blushed. "Hey, I'm still taking a bath. It's not gentlemanly of you to stare at me like this." Song Qing-shu laughed. "I'm not a gentleman to begin with." Zhao Min held her breath and quickly changed the topic. "When are you going to let me go?" Song Qing-shu shook his head. "I haven't decided yet." Zhao Min suddenly became anxious. "You can't lock me up for the rest of my life, can you?" "I won't go that far," Song Qing-shu replied after thinking for a while. "But I can't let you go in the near future. I don't want you to ruin my plan." Zhao Min grabbed the edge of the bathtub and leaned her body against the wall. She seemed to be in deep thought. After a while, she said, "What are you planning in the Jin Kingdom? Tell me. Maybe we have the same interests." "Princess, you're now my prisoner. Why don't you tell me what your plan in the Jin Kingdom is?" Song Qing-shu looked at the large patches of snow-white skin around her exquisite collarbone that were exposed to the air and shifted his gaze away somewhat unnaturally. Zhao Min seemed to realize something. She snorted and then shrunk back into the water. After a long time, she calmed down. Actually, it's not a big deal to tell you. Now the Ryong Mansion is responsible for governing the Jin Kingdom and the Qin Kingdom. Our main army has been recruited by Genghis Khan and led by my brother Wang Baobao to the west. During this period, we can't take any military action against the Jin Kingdom and the Qin Kingdom. But we can't let the two countries be too comfortable. Now, you have swallowed 100,000 elite soldiers of the Qin Kingdom. Then, there is the rebellion of the three border defenses. No matter who wins in the end, they will be greatly weakened. They are nothing to worry about. So, only the Jin Kingdom is left. We don't want to see a unified and stable Jin Kingdom. So, I came to the Jin Kingdom to provoke the kings to fight for the throne. The more chaotic the Jin Kingdom is, the better. Song Qing-shu was stunned. He didn't expect that Zhao Min would be so honest. She easily revealed all her plans. Judging from the information he had, what Zhao Min said should be similar to what she actually thought. He soon realized that all of Zhao Min's plans were open and above board. It didn't matter even if others knew about it, because everyone's desire would be infinitely magnified in front of the throne. Wan Yin-yong, who supported Zhao Min, couldn't guess what her purpose was. But so what if he knew? Compared to the throne, what was the threat of the Mongolians in the future? Seeing him fall into silence, Zhao Min giggled and said, "What do you think? Our interests should be the same, right? The Mongols want the Jin Kingdom to be more chaotic, the better. I'm afraid your Golden Snake Battalion also thinks so." Song Qing-shu's heart suddenly moved. Although Zhao Min was smart, she was not omniscient. Because she didn't know the relationship between him and the Qin Kingdom, there was a big deviation in her judgment. Indeed, from the perspective of the Golden Snake Camp, the more chaotic the Jin Kingdom was, the better it was for the Golden Snake Camp. But the Golden Snake Camp was only one of his forces. The interests of the Golden Snake Camp didn't represent his overall interests. It should be known that in his heart, Mongolia was his biggest enemy. But he was not stupid enough to tell all of this to Zhao Min. He followed her words and said, "Yes, our interests are indeed the same to some extent. Then shouldn't you let me go?" Zhao Min smiled sweetly and kept winking at him. "I can let you go, but..." Song Qing-shu changed the topic. "I went through a lot of trouble to capture you, and I can't just let you go like this. Besides, according to your Mongolian customs, the captive needs to pay a ransom to redeem himself." "Ransom?" Zhao Min breathed a sigh of relief. "That's no problem. The Ryong Mansion may not have much, but we can afford a ransom. Don't be so arrogant." Song Qing-shu said with a smile, "I want a lot of ransom. 200,000 taels of gold and 1,000,000 taels of silver." "Princess, you know that most of the Golden Snake Camp used to be bandits. They live a life of blood and poverty. Now that they have a bigger territory, they can't rob the people in their territory anymore. As a result, the daily expenditure of the army's provisions is an astronomical figure. So I have no choice but to ask for money from you." Zhao Min gasped when she heard this. "Song, do you think my family has a mountain of gold and silver? The Southern Song dynasty only gives 250,000 taels of silver and 250,000 bolts of silk to the Jin Kingdom every year. You're asking for too much. Can't pay? Then there's no other way." Song Qing-shu shrugged and pretended to leave. "It seems that you have to stay here for a while. I'll let you go when the Ryong Mansion pays the ransom." "Hey, wait." Thinking that she had to stay in the secret room for a long time, Zhao Min's face turned pale. She hurriedly stopped him. "But you're asking for too much. We could discuss it again." Song Qing-shu shook his head. "There's no room for discussion. Unless..." Zhao Min looked happy. "Unless what?" Song Qing-shu turned around and looked at her with a faint smile. "I have a strange problem. I love my country, but I love beauties more. If you're willing to kiss me, I might consider waiving your ransom." "Shameless," Zhao Min said angrily. But after a moment of silence, she suddenly asked, "Is what you said true?" Song Qing-shu raised his eyebrows. He He thought that Zhao Min wouldn't sell her beauty based on her proud character, so he nodded and said, "Of course it's true." Chapter 905. Although this small-scale rebellion was quickly quelled, the knowledgeable people in the court knew that it would not end so quickly. The reason why it was so unusual was that the rebel soldier, Sun Jin, claimed to be the emperor's younger brother, the inspector general. The current emperor only had one younger brother, the Chongsheng prince, Wan Yuan. Some time ago, everyone thought that the Chongsheng prince was doomed, but the emperor's next move surprised everyone. Not only did he not punish him for his disrespect, he even rewarded him generously to show his relief. Originally, everyone thought that the emperor would just laugh it off and show his magnanimity. After all, the emperor had been very friendly to the Chongsheng prince recently. Who would have thought that when Wan Shui read the memorial to the throne, his countenance would change? He ordered the imperial bodyguards to imprison the Prince of Everlasting Victory in the imperial prison, and the soldier who had led the rebellion was escorted to the capital. The whole case was handed over to the prince's son-in-law, Tang Kuo. Song Qing was also very surprised. Tang Kuo Bian's presence in the court had always been very weak. Although he was the left premier, he was more well known as the husband of Gobai. Why would he be in charge of such a major case that involved a rebellion and a prince? It was not until Wan Liang came to find him that he understood the whole story. Because of the importance of the case, Song Qing's office was set up in the prison. To prevent corruption and outside influence, the emperor specially ordered that he was not allowed to contact anyone while the case was being handled. However, there were policies and countermeasures. Wan Yanqua's order could not stop people with ulterior motives. That night, Wan Liang wrapped himself in a cloak and sneaked into the prison. Perhaps they had bribed the relevant people. The prison guards tacitly ran to other places, leaving enough space for Song Qing and Wan Liang. After some small talk, Wan Liang and Song Qing quickly got down to business. First, he hinted that the reason why Song Qing received this task was the result of his operation and reminded him of the key to the case. Brother Tang Kuo, the Chongsheng prince, is dead this time. All you have to do is give him a little push. I understand, but the matter still needs to be investigated thoroughly. After all, we have to stop people from talking. Song Qing laughed coldly to himself. Wan Liang's plan was to put him on fire and roast him. Following Wan Liang's instructions, he became a knife in his hand. Wan Liang would take all the benefits, but he would have to bear the infamy of killing the Chongsheng king. But if they didn't follow Wan Liang's instructions, wouldn't that mean that they were openly breaking off relations with him? Song Qing didn't want to see this happen after investing so much in the early stages. Since ancient times, it has never been easy to make a pledge of allegiance. Song Qing sighed inwardly. Although he had exchanged partners with Wan Liang and was able to enter his inner circle, it was obvious that Wan Liang did not trust him that much. This incident was just a test. Hearing his answer, Wan Liang didn't think much of it. That's how it should be. The whole thing should be done beautifully and make people speechless. By the way, Brother Tang Kuo, this is your chance to earn both money and sex, Wan Liang suddenly said with a smile. Earn both money and sex. Song Qing was confused. I'm telling you this because I treat you as one of my own. Wan Liang looked around carefully, then whispered in Song Qing's ear, this time, Chongsheng King's family will definitely put in a lot of effort to bribe Chongsheng King. As the chief interrogator, you will be the most important person. There will definitely be a huge windfall waiting for you. It's not good to take the money but not do the work. Song Qing frowned. Wan Liang obviously wanted to take this opportunity to kill Chongsheng King, and at the same time encourage him to take bribes from Chongsheng King's family. Wasn't it too dirty? What's not good about it? Wan Liang replied indifferently. Chongsheng King is dead this time. When the time comes, his family members will either be exiled to the army or become slaves, who will have the ability to make big waves. Don't be afraid. This kind of thing happens every day in the capital. Have you ever seen anyone get into trouble because of this kind of thing? Song Qing sighed inwardly. These officials were really cunning. Not only were they cruel and merciless, but they were also shameless to the extreme. However, now that he was in the mud, he couldn't pretend to be untainted by the mud without looking for trouble. He could only play along and said with a smile, "Your Highness, I think I understand what you mean about money. What about sex?" Wang Yinliang smiled strangely and said, "Changxing Wangfei is known as Madame Peach Blossom. Her beauty is not inferior to your wife's. Brother Tanqua, have you heard of her?" Song Qing replied calmly, "I've heard a little about her. Right now, Madame Peach Blossom is in the capital. For her husband's matter, she is running around everywhere. She should be begging you soon." Wang Yinliang winked and said, "For a woman to save her husband, anything that happens is reasonable." Song Qing secretly curled his lips. Wang Yinliang did not know Madame Peach Blossom's real identity, so it was not surprising that he had this kind of speculation. Why would Tashtish sacrifice her innocence for Wang Yinyuan? For example, Wang Yinliang, the emperor, was only given a mouthful of knockout smoke. "Your Highness's methods are really admirable." Since flattery was free, Song Qing did not mind numbing Wang Yinliang for a while longer. Wang Yinliang also laughed coldly in his heart. Madame Peach Blossom is now the emperor's woman. If you don't know what's good for you and dare to touch her, hee, when Goodbye becomes a widow, I will take good care of her for you. The two men with ulterior motives chatted for a while longer before Wang Yinliang left in a hurry. After all, he did not want others to suspect that he was the one who had caused trouble. Not long after Wang Yinliang left, another uninvited guest arrived at the heavenly prison. Seeing the haggard young woman in front of him, Song Qing was startled and said, "Ping, don't call me that affectionately." Wang Yinping replied expressionlessly, "Last time, I said that we have broken off all ties." Song Qing knew that she was referring to the incident at the laundry brothel. Because she had been tricked by his letter, she suspected that he was the mastermind behind the incident at the laundry brothel. From then on, she thought that all the tender and sweet feelings she had shown him were just to use her. Song Qing thought that it was better to just get the pain over with. From then on, the young woman who had been so obedient to him became the vicious and merciless head of the laundry brothel. "Okay." Song Qing could only reply in a businesslike tone, "Why did you come so late at night?" Chapter 906. Are you sure? Song Qing frowned. To be honest, he couldn't figure out what Zhao Min was thinking. "Are you coming over or not?" Zhao Min's angry look melted Song Qing's heart. He hurriedly moved closer. "Squat down." Seeing Song Qing standing next to the bathtub and looking down at her, Zhao Min's face turned red. She hurriedly pressed her body against the wall of the bathtub. Fortunately, there was a thick layer of flower petals on the water surface. Otherwise, he would have seen everything. "You're not really going to kiss me, are you?" Song Qing stared at her with wide eyes and a look of disbelief. "What are you talking about? Hurry up and squat down." Zhao Min said angrily. "Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and squat down." Although Song Qing felt that it was a little strange, he still squatted down. After squatting down, he was about to turn around and say something to Zhao Min, who knew that Zhao Min's head would move closer and her soft lips would tightly press against his. Song Qing was startled. Zhao Min, however, shrank back as if she had been electrocuted. She was embarrassed and angry. "Why did you suddenly turn around?" Originally, she only wanted to kiss Song Qing's cheek, who knew that he would suddenly turn around and cause the situation of their lips touching. Touching his lips, there seemed to be a lingering fragrance of a beautiful woman on it. A smile appeared on Song Qing's face. "You didn't say that I couldn't turn around." "Scoundrel." Zhao Min spat and turned her head to the side. "Okay, now that we've kissed, it's time for you to keep your promise and let me go." "So the princess has long had a special liking for me," Song Qing said with a smile. Zhao Min hurriedly said, "Don't let your imagination run wild. I'm just trying to maximize the benefits of the negotiation. Compared to the 20 taels of gold and 100 taels of silver that you're asking for, a mere kiss is nothing." Song Qing calmly looked at her and gently said, "But in my heart, 20 taels of gold or 100 taels of silver are far less precious than a kiss from you." Zhao Min was stunned. Although she knew that the other party was probably coaxing her, she couldn't help but feel touched when she heard his sincere words. However, she was worried that Song Qing would see through her, so she hurriedly curled her lips. There are so many girls around you. I'm afraid that they have fallen for your sweet words. Unfortunately, I'm not that kind of silly girl. Song Qing smiled and didn't explain further. He said directly, Princess, it doesn't matter if I'm being insincere or insincere. Anyway, I'm a man of my word. You can leave later. He did not really abandon the Golden Snake Camp because of women, but he had a deeper consideration. Even though Golden Serpent Camp had many things to do and was short of funds, he had never thought of taking money from Mongolia. After all, he was fighting under the banner of driving out the Tartars and restoring China. Once he had financial dealings with Mongolia, it would be a bad debt that could not be cleared in the future. It would be easy for the enemy to use this as an excuse to shake the foundation of his righteousness. Therefore, he had asked for an exorbitant price just to tease Zhao Min and see how she would respond. However, he didn't expect that she would kiss him. Zhao Min hid in the water and didn't reply. No one knew what she was thinking. Soon, the atmosphere in the room became a little ambiguous. Did I miss something? Gobai walked in with a pile of clean clothes. She was keenly aware that the atmosphere in the room was a little strange. No, nothing, Zhao Min said in a somewhat flustered manner. Sorry to trouble you, sister. Gobai put the clothes next to the bathtub and smiled gently. I saw that your body shape is similar to mine, so I found some of my clothes. I hope you don't mind. Sister, what are you talking about? Zhao Min thanked Gobai again. She saw that Song Qing was still standing in the same place from the corner of her eye. She immediately said angrily, I'm going to put on my clothes. Are you going to keep watching me? Song Qing shrugged. You can wear it. I don't mind. Noticing the two women's angry eyes, he hurriedly added, I'm just kidding. I'm going out first. After waiting outside the door for a while, the door was open from the inside. Song Qing looked back and saw the two women standing together. It really made people not know who to look at. Song, I'm leaving. Perhaps it was because she had just taken a bath, but Zhao Min's face was tinged with a faint blush, which made her look even more delicate and charming. You're leaving in such a hurry. I wanted to keep you as a guest for a while. Song Qing looked reluctant. Bah, I don't want to stay here any longer. Thinking of the dark days that she had been living, Zhao Min could not help but feel a lingering fear. I'm leaving now. After saying that, she patted the hem of her dress and walked out. After a few steps, seeing that Song Qing did not make things difficult for her, she stopped and said, Since you keep your word, I can't be ungrateful. From today on, I will withdraw my forces from the Jin Kingdom, and you can do whatever you want here. She had thought it through thoroughly. Since Song Qing's purpose was to stir up trouble in the Jin Kingdom, there was no point for her to stay here. Moreover, there were urgent matters to deal with in the Ryong mansion. It was impossible for her to stay here for a long time, so she might as well do Song Qing a favor. Where are you going? Zhao Min appeared and disappeared mysteriously all day long, which made Song Qing very curious about her daily whereabouts. Who asked me to be so unlucky? I was poisoned by the 3-corpse brain divine pill. You won't help me find the antidote, so I have to look for it myself. Zhao Min's face was full of hidden bitterness. According to the information I received this time, there are 3 places where Murong Jingyue might be. Daxing Mansion is one of them. However, I didn't find any clues while I was in the Jin Kingdom, so I have to look for the other 2 places. Where are the other 2 places? Song Qing asked hurriedly. Although there was still some time before the Duanyang Festival next year, as long as the poison in Zhao Min's body was not cured, it would be like the sword of Damocles, making people unable to eat or sleep in peace. Zhao Min pursed her lips and shook her head. I can't tell you for now. Otherwise, there won't be a surprise the next time we meet. Song Qing was speechless. Zhao Min waved at him and gradually disappeared into the distance. Her bell-like laughter could be faintly heard in the air. While you are in the Jin Kingdom, help me keep an eye on Murong Jingyue's whereabouts. I believe you can't bear to see me die, right? Ha ha ha, Goodbye could not help but sigh. It seems that the relationship between you and Miss Zhao is not ordinary. You can say that we are both friends and enemies. Song Qing smiled and wrapped his arms around the slender waist of the beauty beside him. He blew into her ear and said, "But my relationship with her is not as intimate as my relationship with you. You know what I mean?" Goodbye's face immediately blushed, and she cupped her fists. Chapter 907. Chang Xinguang. Although he had already guessed why Wan Yinping had come, Song Qingshu was still surprised to hear her say it. "As far as I know, you and Chang Xinguang don't share the same mother?" She and Wan Yuan had the same father, but different mothers. But she and Wan Ruo were biological siblings. This time, it was clear that Wan Ruo wanted to deal with Wan Yuan. Why would Wan Yinping help the one who was more distant? Wan Yinping sighed. "Although we don't share the same mother, we have a good relationship. When I was very young, Taizong was the emperor, and the descendants of Taizong were often bullied. I was the youngest and looked like a little girl, so the princes of Taizong's line loved to bully me. At that time, Chang Shengwang always stood up for me and was often beaten black and blue by the other children. Although we grew apart as we grew older, I still have to repay the kindness he showed me." Song Qing Shu had an awkward expression. "But you should know what the emperor wants with this case. That's why I came to find you." Although Wan Yinping pretended to be calm, if one looked closely, one could see that her eyes were filled with hope. Song Qing Shu shook his head. "This is a very important matter. I need to think about it." Wan Yinping could not hide her disappointment, and her tone became cold. "If that's the case, then I'll have to trouble you tonight." She turned and left, leaving Song Qingshu alone with a bitter smile on his face. Song Qingshu knew that she thought that he was speaking in a bureaucratic manner. However, she did not know that he was in an awkward situation. If he found Wan Yuan not guilty, not just Wan Liang, but even the emperor would not let him off. It would be irresponsible of him to make a promise before he could think of a way to get the best of both worlds. Thus, Song Qingshu did not give her the answer she wanted to hear. While he was in a dilemma, a few of the prison leaders had already gathered together to eat melon seeds. When Wan Liang had entered the prison, he had been completely wrapped up. They didn't know who he was, so they turned a blind eye to the generous gifts they had received. Later, when Wan Yinping came in, she didn't have so many concerns. She was the emperor's younger sister and a powerful person in the laundry yard. It wasn't hard for her to enter the heavenly prison, and she didn't want to hide her tracks. Therefore, when she came and left, the other jailers saw her. Looking at Wan Yinping's tall and beautiful back as she left, a few jailers couldn't help but start discussing. "TSK, TSK, TSK. These two legs are round and straight. If they were to be clamped, which man would be able to stand it? According to what you're saying, she won't marry?" Based on my many years of experience, judging from the way she was walking just now, it was obvious that she was no longer a virgin. I really want to find that lucky man and ask him what it feels like to be caught between these two legs. You guys are quite bold. You even dare to talk about the Qi Kingdom's princess behind her back. Don't you know that she is a famous demoness in the laundry yard? Anyone who falls into her hands will end up in an incomparably miserable state. What's there to be afraid of? I've seen all kinds of high officials and nobles in the heavenly prison. Not to mention a princess. Even a prince is locked up in there. I even personally hanged a prince in the past. That's right, that's right. It's good that the Qi Kingdom's princess doesn't commit any crimes. If she does and falls into our hands, when the time comes, do you guys dare to have some fun? Thinking about her usual cold demeanor as a demoness, when the time comes, it'll definitely be great. Lower your voice. Although we aren't afraid of her normally, she's the sister-in-law of the newly arrived prince consort. If he hears about this, do you guys still want your heads? TSK, sister-in-law, is always the brother-in-law's considerate little cotton-padded jacket. In my opinion, the man who took her virginity might even be the prince consort. Brother-in-law and sister-in-law? Just thinking about it makes me excited. That son of a b*** TCH Tang Kwa Bien. His luck with women is a little too good. His wife is our Jin Kingdom's #1 beauty, Princess Goodbye, and even his sister-in-law is as beautiful as a flower. That #1 beauty of the Jin Kingdom can't just be a bluff, right? I've seen Yinping. and she's already beautiful enough. I really can't imagine that there's a woman more beautiful than her. Tisk, that's because you're inexperienced. Although I've never seen Princess go by, I've been fortunate enough to see Lady Peach blossom, who's equally as famous as her. She's truly a fairy that descended to the mortal world. All the women I've slept with in my life can't even compare to a single toe of hers. Just a glance from her out of the corner of her, I made my whole body go limp. TSK, that's because your kidneys are weak from going to the brothel too often. How can there be such a beautiful woman in this world? Actually, there really is. You've seen her too? Just about. We're coming over, the man said incoherently. Everyone was shocked and looked up. Everyone felt as if they were struck by lightning. A girl as beautiful as a fairy walked in leisurely. Her jade-colored face was elegant and refined. Under the illumination of the fire in the heavenly prison, her rosy white skin looked even more delicate and charming. The corners of her mouth were slightly raised, giving everyone the illusion that she was smiling at them. They didn't even react until the woman walked up to them. Hello, I'm Princess Goodbye of the Dai Kingdom. I've already received permission from the Emperor to speak with the Prince Consort, Tranquil. Is he here? Hearing her voice that was as gentle as water, the jailers finally understood the feeling that their companion had mentioned earlier. They hurriedly replied, Yes. The Prince Consort is in the innermost room. Why don't we take the princess there? The jailers all tried to please her, thinking that it would be good to stay with her for even a moment longer. There's no need to trouble you, big brothers. I'll go there myself. Goodbye nodded slightly and gracefully went to speak with Tang Kwa. The jailer stared at her back, and someone sighed. No wonder she's the most beautiful woman in the Jin Kingdom. She's so beautiful, it's as if she's glowing. I didn't even dare to look her in the eye. Not only is she beautiful, but she's also so gentle to us servants. She's so perfect. I don't dare to hope for anything else. If I could just lick her shoes, I'll be satisfied. You're so useless. Isn't the goddess you can't bear to desecrate under Tang Kwa's body every day? That son of 8B asterisk TCH Tang Kwa Bien. His luck with women is just too heaven-defying. He has such a beautiful wife and a beautiful sister-in-law. Don't be jealous. It's not easy to enjoy the happiness of having two wives. With such a beautiful wife, he must have done it 10 times a day. I guarantee he'll live 30 years less than a normal person. The jailers bragged in private, but they didn't know that their wild guesses were so accurate. Wang Yinping's virginity was indeed given to her brother-in-law, and the real Tang Kwa's life was indeed 30 years less than a normal person. Achoo! On the other side, Song Qingshu couldn't help but rub his nose. Goodbye put a coat on him with concern. It's cold and damp in the heavenly prison. I've only been here for 2 days, and I've already caught a cold. Song Qingshu smiled. It's not like you don't know that I'm very healthy. I'm immune to the cold and heat. The sneeze just now was probably from some rascals talking about me. Goodbye blushed and angrily punched him. You always like to take advantage of others, because the feeling of taking advantage of you is too wonderful. Song Qingshu hugged her and said with a double meaning, I'm really scared of you. Goodbye blushed and pushed him away. I'm here for serious business. For the matter of Changsheng Wang? Song Qingshu was deep in thought. Goodbye's eyes flashed with surprise, but she still nodded, yes. Song Qingshu laughed inwardly. This pair of sisters were really telepathic. They came one after another to plead for their half-brother. Why would you plead for him? As far as I know, the relationship between you and your brother can't be considered close, right? Goodbye sighed faintly. No matter how close they aren't, they're still siblings. Moreover, Imperial Brother only has this one younger brother. Imperial Father's bloodline is thin, and there are only a few males. Now that Wei Wang is dead and Changsheng Wang is gone, Imperial Brother is really all alone. Right now, Imperial Brother is angry. When his anger subsides, he will definitely regret this matter. As his younger sister, I have to find a way to share his burden. Song Qingshu thought to himself. If you knew that Wanyan Shui was treating Wanyan Yuan this way in order to legitimately occupy his sister-in-law, how would you react? However, there was no need to say these dirty things in the palace to taint Goodbye's pure heart. Song Qingshu replied, "Actually, Ping came to find me just now. Did she have the same goal as you? You agreed to her request?" Goodbye's expression brightened. Song Qingshu shook his head. "No, this matter involves too many people. If I'm not careful, I'll bring trouble to myself. But since you've asked, I won't make things difficult for Wanyan Yuan. I'll handle this matter impartially and won't let anyone frame him." Gobai also knew that this matter was very difficult to handle. Dealing with Wanyan Yuan was obviously the emperor's will. If Song Qingshu agreed, he would definitely be under a lot of pressure and risk. Moreover, he wasn't the real Tang Quobian, yet he was willing to take such a risk for her. Gobai couldn't help but throw herself into his arms. "You're so good." Holding her soft and delicate body, Song Qingshu whispered in her ear, "Stay with me tonight, no." Gobai immediately hid to the side, as if she had been pricked by a hedgehog. She was worried that she would hurt Song Qingshu's feelings, so she hurriedly explained, "When I came in, so many people saw me. If I spend the night here, how will I be able to raise my head in the capital? When you return home, I'll do whatever you want." From the beginning, Song Qingshu knew that she was thin-skinned and would definitely not agree. He said this just to tease her, but he didn't expect that there would be a pleasant surprise. "Then it's a deal?" "Yes," Gobai murmured softly. "I'll go back first." After saying this, she didn't wait for him to agree and ran away, as if she was escaping. Song Qingshu didn't mind, but the prison guards outside who were looking forward to seeing the first beauty of the Jin Kingdom suffer. They wanted to talk to the first beauty of the Jin Kingdom again and admire her beauty, but who knew that after she came out of the room, she didn't have the slightest intention of staying. Looking at her quickly disappearing figure, the prison guards couldn't help but feel lost. Just as they were feeling down, one of them suddenly exclaimed, "Am I seeing things? Why is there another woman who can bring calamity to the country?" Chapter 908. Hearing his comrade's exclamation, another jailer impatiently said, "Don't make such a big fuss out of nothing. How can there be so many women who can bring disaster to the country and the people in this world?" "That's right. I don't believe there's a woman in this world who can bring disaster to the country and the people more than the princess of the Dai Kingdom." The remaining people were still immersed in the amazement brought about by the Jade Songbi and were somewhat unconvinced. It's true. She's a liar for 3 months." Seeing that his companions didn't believe him, the first person who cried out in alarm immediately became anxious. He swore the fiercest oath that was usually circulated among the few of them. Hearing his words, the rest of the people raised their heads doubtfully. They had only just taken a glance when the sound of people sucking in a breath of cold air sounded in the room. "What's wrong with today? The woman I've seen is more beautiful than all the women I've seen in the past few decades combined. We've really lived our lives like dogs. We wouldn't even dare to dream of such a woman. She seems to be Madame Peach Blossom." The jailer who claimed to have seen Madame Peach Blossom widened his eyes and suddenly exclaimed, "What?" The others were instantly stunned. This was Madame Peach Blossom, whose beauty was on par with the Jade Songbi. No wonder she was so beautiful. Faintly hearing their discussion, Tadish couldn't help but emit a murderous aura. However, she knew that the imperial prison wasn't a place for her to act recklessly. She could only forcefully suppress the displeasure in her heart. The accompanying servants had long since gone to negotiate with the few jailers. Although the emperor had explicitly forbidden anyone from coming into contact with the people inside, as the ever-victorious princess consort, Tajkis had accumulated quite a lot of connections over the years. Therefore, she had her own methods. It didn't take long for the servant to finish communicating with the prison wardens. Sensing that they were secretly pointing at her, she snorted coldly in her heart and walked inside without saying a word. This Madame Peach Blossom came to the imperial prison not to look for her husband, but another man. Isn't this too strange? Tang Quobian is the presiding judge of the Changsheng prince's case. Of course, she would look for him to smooth things over. How would you guys smooth things over? Hee hee, is there even a need? Although Madame Peach Blossom has a noble status, her status is useless now that the Chongqing Kingdom is in a precarious situation. Isn't her delicate body the best bargaining chip? Square root. See, what kind of karma did your Tranquil do in his past life? His luck with women is just too heaven-defying. His wife is the most beautiful woman in the Jin Kingdom. No, he also has a lovely sister-in-law. Now, even Madame Peach Blossom, a beauty who can bring disaster to the country and people, has come to him. Damn it, comparisons are odious. These women are destined to be beyond the reach of people like us. It's better to discuss which girls are more practical. In the beginning, a few hot-tempered men commented on every woman who came in with great interest, but the repeated blows made them a little numb. Thinking that they were destined to never have any interaction with such women in their lives, the few of them lost interest and changed the topic to other places. Seeing Taj kiss again, Song Qingshu couldn't help but admire her foundation in disguise. She was obviously a pure-blooded Western regionalist, but with simple makeup, she was able to conceal the unique features of a Western regionalist. Looking at her now, apart from her whiter skin and slightly higher nose, she was no different from Central Plains woman. I wonder how she concealed the color of her eyes. Could she be the inventor of the cosmetic contact lenses in the future? Guessed Song Qingshu with great interest. Actually, just this alone wouldn't have caused Song Qingshu, who is also a master of disguise, to gasp in amazement. Tajkis's makeup was ingenious. Although she concealed the unique features of a Western regionalist woman, her appearance was almost identical to her original appearance. How could this be called disguise? It was simply art. May I know the purpose of Chongshang Consort's visit so late at night? Even though Song Qingshu was clear of her intentions, he still asked out of courtesy. Tajkis had been depressed for the past 2 years. Originally, because of her daughter, the Persian Ming dynasty, which she had been worried about for decades, had finally stopped pursuing her. Originally, she believed that with her daughter as the cult master, she could return to her hometown and spend the rest of her life contentedly. In the end, when she arrived in Persia, she realized that the situation at the Ming dynasty was extremely grim. The Mongolian cavalry could trample through the vulture nest at any time. For the sake of her daughter and herself, Tajkis volunteered to return to the Central Plains, intending to use the gene to contain the Mongols. Unexpectedly, just as she returned, she discovered that her cheap husband was actually on the verge of death. She had no choice but to take the risk and enter the palace, using her beauty to exchange for her husband's safety. Just as she was discussing with Wanyin Yuan about seizing the throne, she planned to use her influence to have Wanyin Yuan start a war with the Mongols, giving the Persian dynasty some breathing space. Who would have expected that just as she began her preparations, the incident of Sun Jin's rebellion occurred, dragging Wanyin Yuan into it? She entered the palace several times, but no matter how she pleaded with the emperor, he refused to relent. It seems that this time, Wanyin Yuan has made up his mind to kill her. With no other choice, Tajkis sought out the presiding judge, Tranquil, to see if she could influence the final outcome through him. After all, in the case of Sun Jin's rebellion, Wanyin Yuan was definitely wrongly accused. Tajkis was feeling vexed. Only after hearing Song Qingshu's question did she regain her composure. Revealing a bitter smile, she said, "Consort is an intelligent man. Why ask when you already know the answer?" Song Qingshu wagged his finger and said, "Men will always become stupid in front of beautiful women." Hearing him praise her beauty so directly, Tajkis couldn't help but be moved. Is he hinting at something? Even though she had made ample preparations before coming here, she still couldn't help but feel a trace of disgust. Consort's wife is our Jin Kingdom's #1 beauty. How could an ordinary beautiful woman cause ripples in Consort's heart? Tajkis faintly sighed. Song Qingshu's eyebrows twitched. This woman was purposely changing the topic to something ambiguous. However, he would have to deal with it as it came. Who was afraid of who? Madame Peach Blossom's reputation has spread far and wide. Naturally, she isn't an ordinary woman. Song Qingshu followed up on her words. Tajkis's sneer grew deeper in her heart, but she didn't show it on her face. Instead, she took out a gift box that she had prepared earlier and handed it over. I heard that consort was attacked by an assassin in Kaifeng not long ago. Here, I have gathered quite a number of healing panaceas. I hope they will be of help. Chapter 909. Song Qingshu gently pried open the box, revealing a thick stack of banknotes and jewels inside. He couldn't help but chuckle as he pushed the box back. Madam Peach Blossom, I'm sure you're aware of what's going on with this case. Although your gift is good, I'm afraid that I won't have a life to spend it. Moreover, I'm not interested in gold and silver. For me to risk my life for this, I'll have to disappoint Madam's good intentions. Tatu's expression changed. She took a deep breath to calm the anger in her chest and revealed a charming smile. I wonder what Prince Consort is interested in. What are you willing to risk your life for? The corners of Song Qingshu's mouth curled up slightly. I wonder if Madam has ever heard of the saying of the Han. Dying under a peony flower and becoming a ghost is still a romantic. Tatu's expression finally changed. Strictly speaking, this was no longer a hint but a clear indication. She bit her lips and thought to herself, these nobles are really ruthless. Fortunately, I have a trump card. Otherwise, I really wouldn't be able to do anything in this situation. Fine. As long as this case is solved safely, I'll agree to whatever Prince Consort desires. With things having come to this point, there was no need to beat around the bush anymore. Tadish immediately laid out her bargaining chip. Song Qingshu immediately laughed. Madam, you wouldn't want me to risk my life with an empty promise, would you? Tadish cursed inwardly, but her face was smiling like a flower. I wonder how Prince Consort would be willing to trust me. Song Qingshu replied, words have no proof. Of course, I'll write it down in black and white. Tadish was startled. She originally thought that tranquil would make a move on her today. Who knew that he would be so gentlemanly? Song Qingshu secretly sneered. Others may not know your methods, but how could I not know? I don't want to end up like Wanyan Kong, being sprayed with a mouthful of knockout smoke and then having a night of pleasure in my sleep. Even though he was prepared and Tadish's bewildering smoke couldn't reach him, he didn't wish to expose his identity. More importantly, because of Song Bai and Wanyan Ping, he had already decided to try his best to protect Wanyan Yuan. Whether Tajtish came to beg him or not, the result would be the same. However, Song Qingshu had always been a bastard who did not take advantage of others. Since Tajtish had delivered herself to his doorstep, who wouldn't be willing to take advantage of her empty-handed? Even though she was shocked, Tadish heaved a sigh of relief. In the past, when she used the sleeping gas on Wanyan Yuan, or Wanyan E, she had to plan thoroughly before executing it. This time, in the special environment of the Imperial prison, she didn't have much confidence. It would be best if she didn't use her final trump card. As for the promise she signed, how effective would it be? If he didn't admit it after the matter, would he dare to report it to the emperor? With this thought in mind, she very cooperatively signed the written pledge. Song Qingshu solemnly kept it. Madam, you may return and await my news. In the future, I will bring this written pledge to you to collect the remuneration you deserve. Tajtish sneered in her heart, but maintained a gentle smile on her face. Many thanks for Prince Consort's assistance. Gazing at her departing figure, Song Qingshu glanced at the written pledge in his hand. Of course, he knew that under normal circumstances, such a thin piece of paper wouldn't be of much use. However, as long as one possessed formidable strength as a backing, this piece of paper could provide one with legal sovereignty. Regardless of whether it was in this world or his previous world, though something like a title was illusory, it was extremely useful. A few days later, the case of Sun Jin's rebellion, which was the focus of the court's civil and military officials, finally came to a conclusion. Song Qingshu presented the testimonies of Sun Jin and related individuals, proving that his title was a random one that was coincidentally related to Wanyan Yuan. In the end, Song Qingshu found Wanyan Yuan innocent and released him. Once this result was out, Some were happy while others were sad. Songbai narrated everything that had happened during this period of time in front of her husband's memorial tablet in the secret chamber. In the end, she sighed faintly. Wugula, he treated me really well, just as well as he used to treat me. This time, for me, he even risked defending my brother. I'm really touched. If your soul is in heaven, I wonder if you will blame me. In the palace, Wan Yinping was in her boudoir, looking at the portrait on the wall with a blushing face. This was the portrait she had secretly painted for her brother-in-law, Tang Quobian, to relieve her daily pain of lovesickness. Later, when the incident occurred in the laundry yard, she took down the portrait in a fit of anger. However, she couldn't bear to destroy it, so she finally hung it up again. She muttered to herself, "Brother-in-law, I forgive you." When the news reached Prince Chongqing's mansion, the Persian three emissaries couldn't help but discuss it. That Tang Quobian is really a man of his word. With the saintess personally taking action, what kind of man wouldn't bow down to her skirt? Haha, when Prince Chongqing returns, we have to speed up the process of helping him ascend the throne. I'm afraid the main altar won't last long. Tajtish automatically blocked out the chatter of the three emissaries. Looking at the sky outside the window, her heart was filled with curiosity. That man actually did it. But what made him so confident that he wasn't afraid that I would go back on my word? In Prince Su's mansion, Wan Yinyong was in a daze. Previously, Zhao Min had mysteriously disappeared, and later, even her subordinates had withdrawn one after another. No matter how slow he was, he knew that he had been abandoned by Zhao Min originally. The incident with Prince Chongqing had given him a chance to turn things around. Once Prince Chongqing was executed, he still had a good chance of inheriting the throne. But he had never expected that this would be the result he had been waiting for. In Prince Hailing's mansion, Wan Yin Liang angrily smashed a few teacups. Tang Quobian, that ingrate. I warned him so many times, but he dared to disobey my orders. Beside him, Tu Danjing hurriedly comforted him. Your Highness, please calm down. Tang Quobian is such a good friend. There must be some misunderstanding. Why don't you go and ask him? Wan Yin Liang was already a thorn in his heart because of the exchange of partners that night. When he heard his wife defending Tang Quobian, the scene of her having sex with Tang Quobian appeared in his mind. His face immediately darkened. What's there to ask? He's just an untamed wild dog. If you're defending him like that, don't tell me you've fallen for him? Tu Danjing's face turned pale. Flustered, she replied, Your Highness, why do you say that? Fortunately, Wan Yin Liang thought that she did not know about what happened that night. He had just said it casually and did not notice his wife's uneasiness. He waved his hand in annoyance. Forget it. Let's not talk about this anymore. I'm going to the palace. Not long after Wan Yin Liang entered the palace, an imperial edict was issued from the palace. It reprimanded Tang Quobian for neglecting his duties and colluding with the prince. Sun Jin's case was sentenced to a heavy sentence. At the same time, Tang Quobian was also sent to prison to be tried together with Prince Chongqing. Chapter 9-10. It was obvious that Wan Yin Liang wanted to kill the Chongqing king. Song Qing-shu didn't know the situation and declared the Chongqing king innocent. Wouldn't that offend the emperor? Moreover, Wan Yin Liang couldn't wait to get rid of the Chongqing king as soon as possible. If the two of them cooperated, how could he be safe and sound? However, this was already within his expectations. He simply smiled, turned around, and walked back to the imperial prison. This caused the imperial guards to look at each other in dismay. They had never seen such a cooperative prisoner. It must be known that a moment ago, he was a high and mighty leader of the central government, and in the next moment, he was a prisoner. Almost no one could adapt to such a huge change. These imperial guards had seen many similar scenes over the years. Without exception, all the criminal officials were arrogant a moment ago, and in the next moment, they became soft prawns. Although there were many dirty things in the world, and these guards were not necessarily good people, everyone had a hero complex in their hearts. Song Qingshu's unique temperament of not changing his expression, even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, made a group of people secretly admire him. Therefore, they did not make things difficult for him. They just politely invited him to the prison cell. They did not even put the normal handcuffs and leg shackles on him. After entering the prison cell, Song Qingshu directly sat cross-legged on the stone slab and closed his eyes to rest. He slowly perfected the final details of the plan in his mind. At this time, the prison leaders in the prison gathered together again and were discussing this matter. I knew that something must have happened between Madame Peach Blossom and him last time. Otherwise, why would he dare to declare the Changsheng king innocent? If it were me, I would also declare the Changsheng king innocent. As the saying goes, even if I die under a peony flower, I will still be a romantic ghost. Romantic my ass. His wife is not inferior to Madame Peach Blossom. This is too much of a loss. After he dies, who knows who his wife, who can bring calamity upon a nation, will end up with? And that beautiful sister-in-law. Sooner or later, she will have to pay back. Even if she pays back, it won't benefit us. Why are you worrying about this? That's right. In comparison, I'm more concerned about the time Madame Peach Blossom stayed in his room that night. Don't you think it was a little short? Sigh. Now that you mention it, it seems to be the case. TSK. I couldn't tell. Tang Quobian looks strong on the surface, but he's just a spear that looks like it's made of silver. This is so F***king infuriating. A man like him actually has such a beautiful wife. It's simply a reckless waste of God's gifts. Are you going to take the Jinshu exam? Why are you always talking about literature? Can't I be cultured? My grandfather's generation was also a scholar. The group of people immediately burst into laughter. After your Tang Quobian's suffering, will those beautiful women from last time come to see him again? I think so. Even if others don't come, Princess Daigua is his wife. She will come. That's hard to say. As the saying goes, husband and wife are birds in the same forest, but they fly apart when disaster strikes. Princess Dai is His Majesty's biological sister after all. After Tang Quobian dies, she can just find a new husband. There's no need to get on His Majesty's bad side. Princess Daigua is not that kind of person. The impression Goodbye gave them last night was too good. Someone immediately argued in dissatisfaction. One of them casually raised his head and hurriedly pulled his companion. Stop fighting. Look, there are two more women who can bring calamity to the country and the people. The rest of the people looked up and saw one or two stunning beauties leisurely walking over. The older one was mature and beautiful, and when she walked, her plump and swaying buttocks made the others subconsciously swallow their saliva. The younger one was young and beautiful, and her flawless face made the big and burly men feel ashamed of their inferiority, not daring to look at her face directly. I bet these two seductresses are here to see Tang Quobian. Of course, if not him, then you. The rest of the people all expressed their agreement after seeing so many beautiful women come to visit them. Their reactions caused the two beauties to look at each other. After a moment of hesitation, the young girl skipped over to them with a pure and innocent smile on her face. Big brothers, we would like to pay a visit to Tang Quobian. Would you be so kind as to accommodate us? She blinked her bright eyes as she spoke. She had been able to mingle among the rich nobles like a fish in water for the past few years. She had perfected this trick a long time ago. Of course, the prison guards replied, but we hope that you will agree to one condition. What condition? The young girl's voice was as clear and melodious as an oriole's, but there was a cold glint in her crescent-shaped eyes when she smiled. We hope that you can ask Prince Consort Tang Quobian to answer one of our questions. The prison guards looked at her eagerly. The young girl was stunned. She had thought that these stinky men would have some improper thoughts. Who knew that they would ask for such a condition? She answered reflexively, It should be fine. The young girl thought that Tang Quobian would at least give her face. This way, please. The prison guards hurriedly stood up and led the way. Their enthusiastic attitude confused them. Song Qing-shu was deep in thought with his eyes closed when he heard the commotion outside. He slowly opened his eyes and looked at the two beauties with similar faces. He couldn't help but ask curiously, "Why are you here?" These two beauties were considered as seductresses, as Gubai and Tajkis by the prison guards. In the entire Daxing prefecture, who else could they be other than Zhong Jie and her daughter? Zhong Jie wrinkled her nose in annoyance. "Humph, we just want to see what's going on with you." She hesitated for a moment. Some things were not convenient to say in front of these outsiders, so she pointed at them and said, "Look, these people have questions for you to answer." Song Qing-shu looked at the prison guards in confusion. They all knelt on the ground and said excitedly, "Prince Consort Tang Quobian, these past few days have been an eye-opener for us. The princess of the Qi Kingdom, the princess of the Dai Kingdom, Lady Peach Blossom, and these two, all the famous beauties in the capital have come to find you. Any one of them is more beautiful than all the women we've seen in our lives combined. You must teach us how you manage to capture the hearts of so many beauties at the same time. There's sisters among them, and even mother and daughter. TSK, TSK, TSK. If we can learn even half a trick, we might not even have to pay to go to a brothel in the future." Chapter 911. Genius 1, Second Remember Love Go Away. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. In the end, Song Qing-shu casually sent the prison guard away with a few words. He looked at the sulking Wanyan Zhongjie and Pucha Elihu, who had a strange expression on her face. Song Qing-shu held back his laughter and said, all right. They didn't mean it. Don't take it to heart." Pucha Elihu smiled slightly. Her experiences over the years had made her calm. This matter didn't even count as a ripple, so she directly threw it to the back of her mind. But Wanyan Zhongjie was different. Perhaps it was because of what had happened to her mother, but also because of the rumors she had heard growing up, many of which involved the words mother and daughter. This made her extremely sensitive in this area. She unhappily snorted and said, "You sure are proud of yourself. We came to see you with good intentions, but in the end, we gave you face." Song Qing-shu smiled and said, "No matter what, we are friends. There is no loss in giving a friend face." "Friend?" Hearing this word, Wanyan Zhongjie became even angrier. Is there a friend who poisons others? Back then, Song Qing-shu had forced the mother and daughter to take the 3-corpse brain divine pill. Even now, she was still brooding over it. "Zhongjie!" Pucha Elihu hurriedly pulled her daughter back. She was more mature than her daughter and knew that in that situation, it was normal for Song Qing-shu to use such a method. There was no point in arguing about this now. There was a more important matter. "Prince Song, we came this time to ask young master why he was so unwise. Why did he throw away his life for the ever-victorious king?" This was the benefit of Song Qing-shu giving them the 3-corpse brain divine pill. Whether they were willing or not, their fates were now tied to Song Qing-shu. If Song Qing-shu thrived, they thrived. If Song Qing-shu died, no one could cure the 3-corpse brain divine pill in their bodies. They could only die. So when they heard that something had happened to Song Qing-shu, they immediately came to ask, "Mother, didn't you hear those prison guards just now?" Even Madame Peach Blossom came to find him. He must have lost his mind for a moment and lost his life. Wanyan Zhongjie sneered at the side. Song Qing-shu smiled faintly and did not argue. It was Pucha Elihu who interrupted his daughter. "Don't talk nonsense. Prince Song is not that kind of person. He must have his own considerations." Her daughter's appearance was not inferior to hers now, but when it came to judging men, the two of them were not even half the same. Although Song Qing-shu's words and actions were somewhat frivolous, she could see something in his clear eyes that ordinary people could not. She believed that he was not the kind of man who would delay business for the sake of women. Wanyan Zhongjie was a little unconvinced, but she had just reconciled with her mother and didn't want to embarrass her mother. She opened her mouth, but didn't say anything in the end. That day, Madam exclaimed that I was your confidant. Now I want to do the same. No one knows me better than Madam. Song Qing-shu stood up. That's right. Actually, I already expected this to happen. I just purposely let myself be thrown into prison. The main reason why he did this was because he didn't want to take the blame for Wanyan Xian and Wanyan Liang. After all, the Chongqing king had never done anything evil. Moreover, everyone knew that the Chongqing king had been wrongly accused. It was easy to kill the Chongqing king, as Wanyan Xian and Wanyan Liang wanted, but afterwards he became the executioner in everyone's eyes. After all, this world's rulers and ministers did not subconsciously question the emperor. Wanyan Liang had always been hidden in the dark, so most people did not know what role he had played. In the end, Tang Quobian became the target of public criticism. In Song Qingshu's new plan, Tang Quobian's reputation was very important. He could not allow himself to be tainted by this. It was better to do the opposite and let Tang Quobian, who had always been a bystander, gain a great deal of reputation. As for the danger that he would have to bear, Song Qingshu looked at the bars of the cell in front of him and laughed disdainfully. Wanyan Zhongjie couldn't help but say, "You make it sound like everything is within your calculations, but look at the situation now. You're in prison, and you could be beheaded at any time. It's just a prison. I can come and go as I please. How can it stop me?" Song Qingshu's tone was filled with arrogance. "It just so happens that I'm going to meet someone. Come with me." With that, Song Qingshu reached out and shook the door. The lock immediately broke in two. Pucha Elihu's expression immediately changed. "Young master, what are you doing? I know that you are highly skilled in martial arts, but breaking out of prison in public will definitely cause you to be wanted by the entire Jin Kingdom. Please reconsider." On the other hand, Wanyan Zhongjie looked excited. She didn't care about her mother's worries. She had seen Song Qingshu's martial arts and couldn't wait for him to bring her to the Hailing Prince's residence and kill that beast with her own hands. Song Qingshu shook his head slightly. "Don't worry, madam. It's not that serious. Come with me." With that, he walked straight to the front. Pucha Elihu and her daughter looked at each other and had no choice but to bite the bullet and follow. The group soon bumped into the prison guard. The guard's expression changed. He drew his saber and was about to warn Song Qingshu, but he happened to meet Song Qingshu's eyes. He was stunned for a moment before he returned to his original spot, as if nothing had happened. Pucha Elihu's heart was already in his throat, but when he saw this scene, he was completely dumbfounded. Even Wanyan Zhongjie, who was beside him, had a look of shock on his face. He originally thought that there would be a tough battle, but who knew that it would be like this? Could it be that these guards had been bribed by Song Qingshu? No, he had clearly wanted to pull out his sword, but why did it turn out like that? When they walked out of the prison, the two women felt like they were in a dream. On the way here, the guards had treated them as if they didn't exist and allowed them to walk out. "How did you do it?" Wanyan Zhongjie pulled on Song Qingshu's arm, her face full of excitement and curiosity. Song Qingshu shook his head and said with a smile, "Secrets can make a man mysterious and charming." Angry, Wanyan Zhongjie was so angry that he stomped his feet. Pucha Elihu had been dancing on a tightrope for the past few years and had always been cautious. Seeing that he wasn't willing, she immediately pulled on her daughter, indicating that she shouldn't dwell on this issue. "Young master, you're going to meet someone. Who is it?" Pucha Elihu changed her tone and asked. Song Qingshu looked in the direction of the Hailing Prince's residence. "Weren't you all unhappy that I didn't allow you to take revenge on your own? Didn't you think that I was being perfunctory? Today, I'll let you experience the joy of taking revenge in advance." Song Qingshu paused, then suddenly reached out and wrapped his arms around the two women's waists. The two women's expressions changed. Just as they were about to explode, they heard him say, "I can't leave the prison for too long in case someone finds out. We need to hurry." Chapter 9:12. Wanyan Zhongjie twisted his body, an unnatural expression on his face as he said, "You can support my mother. I know how to move." Song Qingshu replied, "You're too slow, and we need to hurry." He paused, then added, "Don't think that I'm trying to take advantage of you. If I want to take advantage of you, I'll do it openly. I won't hide it like this." As soon as he finished speaking, he didn't wait for the two women to refute him. He grabbed their waists and sped towards the Hailing Palace. When they arrived at an alley outside the walls of the Prince of Hailing's palace, Song Qing-shu gently placed the two women down. Wan Yin Zhongjie immediately jumped away with a red face. As for Pucha Elihu, he was much more experienced. He tidied up his hair that had been blown about by the wind as he tried to hide the embarrassment in his heart. Song Qing-shu pushed off with the tip of his foot and flew to a nearby tree. He plucked a leaf and brought it to his mouth, blowing out a unique yet rhythmic melody. Looking at the man on the tree, his robes fluttering in the wind, he looked like he was out of this world. Pucha Elihu pulled his daughter to the side and said, "Chongjie, your mother couldn't open her eyes because of the wind. You're highly skilled in martial arts. Can you tell how good his lightness kung fu is?" Thinking about how he could only bury his face in a youth's chest, Pucha Elihu felt a trace of the young girl's heart throbbing. Wan Yin Zhongjie shook his head and said, "I couldn't see it clearly either. However, the distance from the imperial prison here is more than half of Daxing Prefecture, yet he managed to get here so quickly. His lightness technique definitely far surpasses mine." Pucha Elihu smiled bitterly and sighed. Now we can only hope that he becomes stronger. Otherwise, if he dies, we won't be able to live either. Wan Yin Zhongjie also had a depressed expression. This bastard actually used such a sinister poison. What kind of hero is he? The mother and daughter hid to the side and whispered to each other. Suddenly, the side door of the King of Hailing Palace opened and a woman walked out. She nervously looked around, and when she saw that no one was paying attention, she ran towards Song Qing-shu. "Mother, she seems to be consort hailing?" Wan Yin Zhongjie rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Pucha Elihu was also shocked. Yes, it's Tu Danjing. She had been in the capital for so many years. How could she not recognize her? Unspecified currency, unspecified currency, unspecified currency, M.C. At this time, Tu Danjing also saw them and wanted to retreat. Song Qing-shu came down from the tree and waved at her. "Don't be afraid. Come here." Tu Danjing's eyebrows furrowed, but she still walked over. Wan Yin Zhongjie and Wan Yin Zhongjie couldn't help but look. And she couldn't help but look at each other. They could see the shock in each other. Tu Danjing was the princess. Why she was so. "I heard that you were trapped in the heavenly prison, and this concubine is trying to rescue you, but unfortunately," Tu Danjing said as she secretly glanced at Zhongjie and her mother. She felt extremely uncomfortable in her heart. One had to know that her relationship with Song Qing-shu couldn't be exposed to the public, and now that it was seen by other women, if any rumors were to leak out, the consequences would be unimaginable. Song Qing-shu could tell that she was worried and patted her shoulder to comfort her. "Don't worry, they're all on the same side." Tu Danjing nodded and lowered her eyes, but everyone could see that she didn't think much of it. Before, they had only guessed that there was something between the two of them. Seeing their intimate actions and Tu Danjing acting like she was used to it, Wan Yin Zhongjie and Wan Yin Zhongjie were shocked. He had actually seduced consort hailing. Song Qing-shu coughed and said quickly, "Time is of the essence. I'll be long and short. I came to find you because I need your help with something." Tu Danjing's expression brightened. "Tell me what to do." Song Qing-shu nodded and said, "Find a chance to tell Wan Yin Liang. Suggest that he send me out of the capital to subdue the Chuanjin sect, which has never listened to the imperial court. And use this as a way to atone for my crimes." Tu Danjing frowned. "I'm afraid this will be a little difficult. This time, you didn't do what he wanted, so he is very angry. He can't wait to kill you. Besides, she suddenly became a little hesitant. She looked at Song Qing-shu's face and continued. "He wants to use this opportunity to get rid of you and get his hands on the Jade Song. It is even more impossible for him to let you go." Song Qing-shu smiled. "You don't have to worry about this. As long as you tell him, he can take the opportunity to command the Pu Cha family to accompany me to Chongyang Palace. If there is a chance, he can transfer more than half of the forces loyal to the imperial court. He will definitely be tempted." Tu Danjing nodded. "I'll try my best. I have to go back now. Otherwise, the servant girls will be suspicious." Song Qing-shu opened his arms. Aren't you going to hug me before you go? Tu Danjing glanced at the two women and could not help but bite her lips. After struggling for a long time, she could not resist the voice in her heart. She blushed and threw herself into Song Qingshu's embrace. Song Qingshu lowered his head and kissed her red lips. After a long time, they parted. I haven't seen you for a few days. Wang Fei's body has become softer. In front of other women, Tu Danjing could not resist such teasing. She spat and ran back to the Wang Fu with a red face. Turning back to look at the two women in the wind, Song Qingshu's voice returned to normal. With Madame's intelligence, you should know why I deliberately acted so intimate with Tu Danjing just now. Pucha Elihu looked at him in a daze. Suddenly, she bowed to him. On behalf of my late husband, this servant thanks young master for his kindness. Of course, she knew what Song Qingshu meant. She had been humiliated by Wanyan Liang. Simply killing him was not a good way to vent her anger. However, Song Qingshu had given her a taste of her own medicine and caused Wanyan Liang's wife to suffer the same fate. Pucha Elihu immediately felt much better. As for dealing with Wanyan Liang, it is almost time. I hope that foreign will not wait patiently. Song Qingshu continued. Pucha Elihu smiled. Now that things have come to this, how can I still doubt young master? From now on, if young master has any requests, as long as we, mother and daughter, can do it, we will not refuse. Any requests? Song Qingshu silently cursed. If he asked the two of them to accompany him, he did not believe that they would not refuse. Of course, this kind of taboo thought only lingered in his mind. He quickly regained his composure and said, in the near future, there is indeed something I need Sister Zhongjie to do. Wanyan Zhongjie was startled. What is it? If everything goes according to plan, the imperial edict for me to leave the capital will arrive soon. I am worried about Gubai's safety, so before I return, you must secretly protect her. Gubai was, after all, a dignified princess of the empire. The guards in her residence were quite strict, and Zhongjie's martial arts were passable. Most importantly, as a woman, it was easier for her to protect her. Song Qingshu made these arrangements just in case. No problem. I will protect Annie. Zhongjie nodded. Chapter 9:13. Wanyan Zhongjie froze and asked, what do you mean by worse than a beast? Song Qingshu had wanted to say worse than death, but he didn't expect that to come out of his mouth. Hearing Zhongjie's question, he deliberately put on a straight face and said, in your eyes, Wanyan Liang is a beast, right? When the time comes, I'll be even more of a beast than him. Beside him, Pucha Elihu coughed lightly and blushed. Wanyan Zhongjie also reacted and said angrily, you're shameless. Song Qingshu replied, as long as you protect the Songbei well, nothing shameless will happen. Zhongjie stomped his feet and turned around, leaving only his back facing him. At the same time, he was cursing in his heart. This bastard is really too shameless to actually have such thoughts. I really want to bite him to death. I'm going back to the imperial prison. Goodbye. Song Qingshu was also a bit embarrassed and hurriedly left after saying ha. Seeing him leave, Zhongjie couldn't help but run to his mother's arm and say, Mother, this bastard isn't a good person. We have to be careful in the future. Pucha Elihu laughed and shook his head. He was just joking with you. With his martial arts and the methods he showed in the imperial prison, even if he really wanted to do what we did, it would be a piece of cake. Why did he have to threaten us? I'm just lamenting why Gubai was so lucky to meet him when she was at her most helpless. Hearing his mother's lamenting tone, Wanyan Zhongjie fell silent. After a long time, he sighed and said, if only he had appeared in front of us when grandfather and father were unjustly killed. That's right. Pucha Elihu also sighed. At this time, Gubai, whom they were envious of, was kneeling in front of the Hall of Benevolence and begging her brother. However, Wanyan Zhu remained unmoved. Eventually, he became annoyed and couldn't help but say, it's just Tang Quobian. Even if he's dead, I'll just find you a new son-in-law. Why are you crying here? Gubai bit her lip and said with red eyes, My sister and the son-in-law are in love and won't remarry. The reason why Prince Consort Changsheng Wang was acquitted was largely because I went to plead for him. So, if Imperial Brother wants to punish me, then punish me as well. Wan Yinju narrowed his eyes and said coldly, It seems you're on Wan Yin Yuan's side. Gobai raised his head and answered, I'm not on either side. It's just that Imperial Father only has a few children. Now that Prince Wei has unfortunately passed away, if even Prince Changsheng is gone, won't the empire passed down by Imperial Father fall into the hands of outsiders? Right now, Wanyan Rui was most afraid of people mentioning the matter of the throne. In fact, deep down in his heart, he would rather pass the throne to an outsider than to the Changsheng prince. However, he couldn't voice these thoughts out loud. Hearing that Gobai seemed to be speaking up for the Changsheng prince, Wanyan Rui couldn't help but fly into a rage. You and I are brother and sister, but I didn't expect that even you would betray me. You're not allowed to enter the palace without my permission. Gobai panicked. She hadn't gotten a pardon from Song Qingshu yet, so she wasn't willing to leave. Brother, Wan Yinju waved his hand impatiently. Chase Princess Dai out. The eunuchs and palace maids quickly blocked Gobai's way and said coldly, Princess, please. Gobai knew her brother's personality very well. Since he said this, there was no turning back. With the eunuchs and palace maids blocking her way, Gobai looked at the person sitting on the throne not far away and felt that he was a stranger. Seeing this, Wan Yinping turned to leave. Originally, she had come to beg her brother to pardon Tang Kuobian, but with Gobai as an example, she knew that begging would be of no use. She might even end up harming her brother-in-law. She had worked in the laundry for many years and had developed a swift and decisive personality. Seeing that begging was of no use, she left the palace without a word and headed for the imperial prison. Song Qingshu had already returned to the imperial prison. As he was meditating, his heart suddenly skipped a beat and he opened his eyes. Not far away, a suppressed scream could be heard, followed by the sound of a heavy object hitting the ground. Is someone trying to get rid of me in advance? Puzzled, Song Qingshu was secretly on guard. When he saw Wan Yinping rush in, he froze. Why are you here? There's no time to explain. Wan Yinping cut the shackles on the cell with her sword. Grab him and come with me. Song Qingshu didn't move. He looked at the blood on her sword and asked, Are you planning to break into the prison? There's no other way. My brother is getting crazy and wants to kill you and Changsheng Wang together. I have no choice but to do this. Wan Yinping sighed inside. She had used her identity as the head of the laundry to sneak into the imperial prison. She would thank the heavens if she could save Tang Kuobian before the guards could react. As for Changsheng Wang, she could only apologize. Song Qingshu shook his head. No, you're taking too much risk. Wan Yinping hurriedly said, No matter what, I'm my brother's sister. I can keep my life. You are different. My brother has already started to find a new son-in-law for my sister. Song Qingshu's eyes hardened. Wan Yinping didn't know the danger around her and was now seeking death. There was nothing to sympathize with. Pinger, listen to me. I have a way to safely get through this. What you need to do now is to protect your sister. Even though she didn't need it, Song Qingshu was still moved by her actions. She was taking such a big risk to break into the prison. If she wasn't careful, she would be doomed. But when he thought about how her affection was for Tang Kuobian, Song Qingshu couldn't help but feel a trace of guilt. What can you do? Wan Yinping was so anxious that she stomped her feet. With this delay, the guards in the heavenly prison finally reacted. A large group of guards surged out from the alleyway, and when they saw the two of them, they couldn't help but shout, Princess of the Qi country, you were so daring to break into the heavenly prison. Wan Yinping's face paled. With so many guards, she probably wouldn't be able to kill her way out. But it was fine. It wasn't a bad ending to die with her brother-in-law. But she had a strong personality. She wasn't willing to give up until the last moment. She grabbed Song Qingshu's hand with one hand and held her sword in front of her chest. Brother-in-law, let's kill our way out. Song Qingshu reached out and pulled her back. He looked at her with pity. Pinger, why are you so stupid? He then turned around to look at the guards. His voice was like the voice of the nine heavens. Nothing happened here. You didn't see anything. Go back to your posts. Chapter 9:14. Genius 1, second remember if you want to go. Speak, net, provide you with exciting novels to read. But what shocked Wang Yinping was that a miracle really did happen. The group of guards dispersed one by one with stupefied expressions, as if the entire jailbreak incident had never happened. See, I didn't lie to you. I can go out whenever I want. And the reason I'm here is because I have to stay here. Song Qing turned around and smiled at Wang Yinping. Wang Yinping felt a chill run down her spine. The brother-in-law she was so familiar with suddenly became so strange. She subconsciously took a step back and put some distance between them. Song Qing sighed. I know you have a lot of questions in your heart right now, but it's not convenient here. You should go home and protect your sister first. I'll explain it to you in detail after everything is over. Plus unspecified currency, plus unspecified currency, plus unspecified currency. Greater than or equal to. Wang Yinping nodded mechanically. Even when she left the prison and saw the sunlight outside, she was still in a daze. She subconsciously walked towards Tang Qua's mansion. The servants in Tang Qua's mansion were already familiar with this sister of the matriarch, so no one stopped her or notified her. As Wang Yinping walked around the mansion, she suddenly realized something. Sister must know something. So she pulled a servant over and asked, Where is my sister? Madam is receiving a guest in the main hall. What guest? Wang Yinping was confused. I think it's King Hailing. Wang Yinping was shocked and hurried towards the main hall. At this time, in the main hall, Gubai looked at the person who killed her husband. She finally calmed down and squeezed out a smile. Brother Hailing, what brings you here? Wang Yinliang noticed her unnatural expression, but he thought that she was overworked because of her husband's imprisonment and looked a little haggard. But even so, it didn't hide her charm at all. Instead, it gave her a kind of pitiful charm. She really is a gift from the heavens to men. Wang Yinliang secretly sighed in admiration. He thought about how he could ride on her that night and felt a strong sense of accomplishment of conquering her. I heard that something happened to Brother Tang Qua, and I was worried that royal sister would be too sad and hurt her body, so I brought some tonics to visit her, Wang Yinliang replied. Gubai glanced at the gifts beside him and suppressed the disgust in his heart. Thank you for your kindness, Brother Wang, but I'm fine. Now that there are no men in the mansion, it is not convenient for me to keep Brother Wang for a long time. Please forgive me. At the same time, he secretly made up his mind that after he left, he would burn all the things he had brought with him. No, he would even burn the chair he had sat on. Wang Yinliang was stunned. He did not expect that the other party would ask him to leave so quickly. However, the other party's cold attitude made him even more irresistible. He had seen countless women, and it was no longer interesting to play with those who threw themselves into his arms. It was better to conquer the heart and mind of such a cold woman step by step. That would give him a greater sense of accomplishment. He said unhurriedly, Apart from visiting my sister, I'm also here to ask her if she wants to save Tang Qua Bien. Gubai was still troubled by this matter. Hearing this, she was no longer in a hurry to chase him away. Does Brother Wang have a way? Of course I have a way. Wang Yinliang deliberately paused to keep Gubai in suspense. Gubai frowned. She had a bad feeling about this, but she still went along with his words. I hope Brother Wang can enlighten me. Wang Yinliang deliberately sighed. This case is the Emperor's idea. It won't be so easy to save him. Gubai calmly replied. Brother Wang has always been resourceful. This shouldn't be a problem for you. Wang Yinliang frowned. He realized that these methods of dealing with ordinary women were not effective on Gubai. It seemed that he had to change his method. Since we've come to this point, I'll be straightforward. I do have a way to save Tang Qua Bien, but why should I take such a big risk to save your husband? Gubai laughed coldly inside. She knew that her foxtail had finally been exposed. From Brother Wang's tone, it seems that you want a reward. What does Brother Wang want in return? The strange feeling in Wang Yinliang's heart grew stronger. Gubai was a little too calm. It was very different from the dejected look he had imagined. But no matter how he thought about it, he felt that everything was within his control. He directly said, "Sister Wang is a smart person. You should know what I want." Goodbye's expression turned cold. "Forgive me for being stupid, but I really don't know what you want." Since they had already shed all pretense of cordiality, she didn't even want to call him Brother Wang. "Since Sister Wang is playing dumb, then I'll be straightforward." Wan Yinliang chuckled. "You're what I want. Spend a night with me. Then I'll help you save your husband." Goodbye opened her red lips and spat out a single word. "Scram." Wan Yinliang was stunned. He didn't think that she would reject him so decisively. She didn't hesitate at all. "Don't you want to save your husband?" Goodbye thought to herself, "My husband is already dead because of you." But she also knew that revealing this matter now would only bring harm to herself. It would only put Song Qing in danger. She suppressed her anger. "My husband is a man of indomitable spirit. I believe that he would never agree to sacrifice his wife's innocence to save him. You don't need to say anything more. If you don't leave, I'll call for someone to chase you out." Although Wan Yinliang was powerful, this was still her home. At the same time, it was also the ancestral home of the Tranquil family. She might not be able to kill Wan Yinliang, who was surrounded by guards, but just chasing him out was not a problem. "Your husband is a man of indomitable spirit." Wan Yinliang laughed exaggeratedly, as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. "My good sister, you don't need to act so pure. Do you know that the man of indomitable spirit in your heart, in order to rely on me, gave you to me to play with? Do you still remember the time I came to your house as a guest? When he asked us to stay the night, did you think it was Tranquil who entered your room that night? To tell you the truth, he was the one who led me to stand at the door. After talking to you, I was the one who entered. TSK. That night, you were really coquettish. That panting beside my ear, that fine sweat on your body, and that boundless passion of yours. Even now, when I think about it, I'm still excited." Wan Yinliang said a bunch of things in rapid succession. He had thought that Goodbye would collapse on the spot. He would then be able to take advantage of this opportunity to break through her defenses and obtain this beautiful woman that he had been drooling over for a long time. Who knew that from beginning to end, Goodbye's expression was very calm. It could even be said that she didn't have any emotional fluctuations. "Are you done? If you're done, then you can get lost." Goodbye expressionlessly waved her hand. Wan Yinping, who had just arrived at the main hall, heard everything clearly. She felt as if she had been struck by lightning. There was only one voice left in her heart. "Impossible, impossible, brother-in-law can't be that kind of person." Starting from 12 noon tomorrow until 12 noon on the 19th, Zongheng will have a double monthly vote event. During this period, the monthly votes cast will be counted as double, so one vote will be counted as 2 votes. During this period, I will try my best to write as many chapters as possible. I hope that I can work together with everyone to see if I can make a breakthrough in the monthly votes rankings. After all, after so long, the highest I have been hovering around is in the 20s. I really want to experience what it's like to be in the front. In order to get the reader's support and corresponding feedback, the author will be more motivated, and at the same time, the author won't be exhausted to death. For the time being, we'll set a standard. In the future, we'll write 2 chapters a day. Starting from 12 noon, after the double monthly votes, we'll add 1 chapter for every 50 votes that increase the total monthly votes for Zongheng. Because I don't have any experience like this before, I'm always worried that if everyone votes too many monthly votes, let me think on the bright side for a moment, I'll be exhausted from writing. For example, if there are any godly rich readers, my manuscript will definitely not be able to make ends meet. So I need to make it clear to everyone in advance that if there are too many monthly votes and I can't keep up with the speed of writing, the missing chapters will be recorded, and I will do my best to make up for it in the shortest time possible. Thank you for your support. Chapter 9:15. Seeing that things were not going as he had expected, Wan Yinliang was so depressed that he almost vomited blood. His expression became ferocious as he said, "It's easy to make me leave now, but I'm afraid that you'll kneel down and beg me to come back. Since you don't know what's good for you, then I'll raise my conditions. If you want to save your husband, then it won't be enough for you to accompany me alone. Call your younger sister. If you two serve me well, then I'll consider it. Wang Yinliang dared to act so brazenly in front of Wu Ji because he knew that this was not something to be proud of for Gobai. As a woman, she would subconsciously hide this matter. Secondly, he had just received news that because of Tang Kuo's defense, Wang Yinren had ordered that Gobai was not allowed to enter the palace again. Even if she wanted to complain to the emperor, she could not. Thirdly, the Chongsheng prince had already been killed. Before long, he would start a coup and replace Wang Yinren. She was just a princess, so he did not have to worry too much. Wang Yinliang couldn't help but tremble at the thought of having a gentle and moving elder sister and a charming and hot younger sister at the same time. Wang Yinping, who was outside the door, could not bear to listen any longer. She shouted and rushed in with her sword drawn. With a clang, one of Wang Yinliang's 4 guards, Tu Dan Ali, appeared in front of his master and blocked Wang Yinping's attack with his sword. Wang Yinping's wrist was in pain. She knew that she was no match for Tu Dan and could only stare at Wang Yinliang with hatred. You're a beast in human clothing. Gobai frowned and shouted, Guards! Soon, a large group of Tang Kuo's guards rushed in. Gobai pointed at Wang Yinliang and said, Get him out of here. Wang Yinliang laughed and said, There's no need to trouble the guards. I can leave on my own. Remember my conditions. When the time comes, ask your younger sister to come along. Ha ha ha! Seeing how arrogant he was before he left, Wang Yinping trembled with anger. She wanted to rush over several times, but her sister secretly held her back. Sister, are you going to let him go just like that? After Gobai dismissed the guards, only the 2 sisters were left in the hall. Wang Yinping couldn't help but ask. Gobai sighed and said, Wang Yinliang has 4 bodyguards with him, and each one of them is a highly skilled fighter. There's also a team of bodyguards waiting outside the palace. If we really fight, we won't be able to hold him back. If we provoke him, it will be disadvantageous to you and me. Wang Yinping also knew that what she said was reasonable, but she felt very sullen inside. 2D princesses were forced into such a sorry state by a branch Wangya. What kind of world was this? It's all because royal brother is muddle-headed and useless, favoring such a crafty person, Wang Yinping angrily said. Gobai also had a desolate look on his face. My royal brother's character has always been rather feminine, and he has become even more so in recent years. He doesn't even care about his own kinship. He only cares about that position and is afraid that others will threaten him. Last time, Wei Wang was killed unjustly, but Chongsheng Wang was innocent. Don't let him take the opportunity to implicate him. Now even brother-in-law. The more Wang Yinping spoke, the angrier she became. Other than the few people who had set up the plan, most of the people in Jing were confused by the recent changes. In the eyes of the 2 sisters, it was clear that the emperor had executed Wei Wang, but he was putting the blame on Chongsheng Wang. After thinking about it, they could only think that Wang Yinliang had become so ruthless that he didn't care about anyone who was a threat to him. Even his own son and brother were no exception. Thinking about all of this, the 2 sisters fell silent. After a while, Wang Yinping remembered what Wang Yinliang had just said. After hesitating for a long time, she asked, Sister, what Wang Yinliang said just now, is it true? Gobai nodded. It's true. What? Wang Yinping felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She thought about how her brother-in-law, whom she had always admired, had bought a wife for the sake of wealth. She thought about how her beloved sister had been humiliated by that beast. She felt all her hopes turn to dust, and the world seemed to lose all color. Noticing her sister's pale face, Gobai also realized that her words had caused a misunderstanding. She hurriedly pulled her to sit down and said, Pinger, it's not what you think. Listen to me. She then recounted what happened that night. Hearing that her brother-in-law had used a prostitute to deal with Wang Yinliang, and then used the plum to replace the peach, causing him to lose the rice used to lure the chicken, Wang Yinping's expression became very interesting. Sister, are you saying that not only did Wang Yinliang not take advantage of you, but Wang Fei was also slept with by brother-in-law? Gubai's face was red as she nodded. She had always been gentle and kind. If it wasn't to avenge her husband, she wouldn't have agreed to use such a lowly and sinister method. Brother-in-law is good. Wang Yinping's face was full of excitement. Just then, Wang Yinliang almost angered me to death. Brother-in-law helped me vent my anger. She was born in the royal family and was used to what happened in the palace. She was different from other women and didn't feel that it was inappropriate for her lover to sleep with another woman. Moreover, it was Wang Yinliang, that beast's wife. Gobai didn't think that her sister would have such an excited reaction. She didn't know what to say and could only smile awkwardly. Wang Yinping's expression suddenly changed, and she became hesitant. The attentive Gobai quickly noticed her sister's abnormality and couldn't help but ask, "Pinger, what's wrong?" "Sister, there is something I've been suppressing in my heart, and I don't know if I should say it." Thinking about the scene that morning, Wang Yinping felt irritated. Gobai smiled warmly and held her hand as she looked at her. "Pinger, in this world, you and your brother-in-law are the closest people to elder sister. What else can I say?" Wang Yinping gritted her teeth. "Fine. Since you mentioned brother-in-law, I want to ask you a question. Did you do something to let him down?" Gobai's expression changed as she thought about the time she spent with Song Qing-shu. If she didn't know his identity before, it wouldn't have mattered. However, after discovering his identity, the two of them lived a normal life as a married couple. Although she had always used the excuse of avenging her husband to numb herself, recently she became more and more aware that her body had let down her husband and her heart had started to let him down. Thinking about this, she sighed. "Yes, I did something to let your brother-in-law down." Hearing that she didn't deny it, Wang Yinping had a complicated expression on her face. "Sister, why are you so muddle-headed? Brother-in-law has always been good to you. Why did you do something like that? Besides, it's fine if you look for someone else, but why did you look for a traitor who is an enemy of the Jin dynasty?" Even more today, 15th, at 12 noon, until the 19th, Zongheng will have a double monthly vote event. During this period, the monthly votes cast will be counted as double. One vote will be counted as 2 votes. During this period, I will try my best to write more chapters. I hope that I can work together with everyone to see if we can make a breakthrough in the monthly votes list. After all, after so long, the highest position we have is only in the 20s. I really want to experience what it feels like to be in the front. In order to get the corresponding feedback from the readers, the author will be more motivated, and at the same time, the author will not be exhausted to death. For the time being, let's set a standard. In the future, there will be 2 chapters per day. After the double monthly votes, for every increase of 50 votes in the total monthly votes for Zongheng, 1 chapter will be added. Because I don't have any experience like this before, I'm always worried that if everyone votes too much, let me think on the bright side for a while, I will be exhausted from writing. For example, if there are some super rich readers, my manuscript will definitely not be able to make ends meet. Therefore, I need to make it clear to everyone in advance that if there are too many monthly votes and I can't keep up with the speed of updating, the missing chapters will be recorded and I will try my best to make up for it in the shortest time possible. Chapter 916. That day, she had been coerced by Song Qing-shu. Wang Yinping had no choice but to give in. Afterwards, she had tried to use the power of the laundry yard to capture him, but Song Qing-shu seemed to have disappeared into thin air. There was no trace of him. During this time, she had investigated many things about Song Qing-shu through the information network of the laundry yard. The more she investigated, the more shocked she was. In the past few years, he had been like a bright sun that had suddenly risen into the sky, giving off blinding light. Even as an enemy, Wang Yinping admired him. Of course, when she thought about how he had bullied her sister and made the brother-in-law she admired a cuckold, this good feeling disappeared. Hearing her sister say this, Gobai's expression changed. "So you knew?" "Yes." Wang Yinping lowered her head. She was irritated and kept kicking the ground with her shoes. "Actually, Jijia had no choice." Gobai sighed. "I mainly wanted to avenge your brother-in-law." "Avenge brother-in-law?" Wang Yinping suddenly raised her head, her expression puzzled. Even though brother-in-law had been thrown into prison, he was still fine. "Avenge what?" Gobai nodded and continued. "Last time, your brother-in-law was ordered to go to Kaifeng to capture Guijing and Huangrong. On the way, he met Qing Shu and became sworn brothers. It was the most solemn kind of oath. Later, during the arrest of Guijing and Huangrong, that dog Wanyan Liang took advantage of the chaos and sent a suicide soldier to kill your brother-in-law. He wanted to take the opportunity to push the blame on Guijing and Huangrong. Fortunately, Qing Shu appeared and saved him. Otherwise, your brother-in-law wouldn't have died without knowing why. However, your brother-in-law's injuries were too severe at that time. He knew that he would definitely die, so he begged Qing Shu to disguise himself as him and come to Daxing Prefecture to protect me and the Tranquil family. He also tried to take revenge for him. In return, your brother-in-law gave the entire family and me to Qing Shu. Jejia didn't know about these things at the beginning and didn't want to do anything to your brother-in-law. But later, I found out the truth and knew that it was all your brother-in-law's good intentions. So I forgave Qing Shu. As Gobai spoke, she suddenly noticed that her sister's face was covered in tears and quickly wiped them away. Pinger, what's wrong? Wanyan Ping raised her head mechanically. Sister, you mean brother-in-law is dead? Gobai immediately realized what was going on and couldn't help but exclaim, so you don't know? Wanyan Ping shook her head dejectedly. Gobai looked at her sister with pity. Since they had already spoken, it was better to get the pain over with. So, she pulled her sister back to the bedroom and took out Tang Kuo Bian's blood letter from a secret drawer. She handed it to her sister and said, Pinger, this is what your brother-in-law wrote before he died. You take a look. Wanyan Ping shakily reached out to take the blood letter. Seeing the familiar handwriting and the eye-piercing blood stain, she finally sobbed uncontrollably. Hearing her sister's cries, Gobai's emotions were also affected. She couldn't help but hold her in her arms, and the two sisters began to cry. After crying for a long time, Wanyan Ping suddenly stood up and walked out with her sword. Gobai hurriedly pulled her back. What are you doing? I'm going to kill that bastard, Wanyan Liang, to avenge brother-in-law. Wanyan Ping said through gritted teeth. Gobai frowned. You've already tried. You can't even defeat one of his guards. How are you going to avenge him? Then we can report this to my brother and let him help us. Wanyan Ping thought for a moment and continued. Gobai shook her head. My brother is very fond of Wanyan Liang. Comparing a dead prince consort to Wanyan Liang, I'm sure you can guess who is more important. Moreover, we don't have any evidence. A blood letter from Wanyan Liang could be a forgery. In addition, Qing Shu's identity is very sensitive. When the time comes, will your brother believe Wanyan Liang's words or the words of an enemy of the Jin kingdom? Also, during this period of time, Qing Shu has been using Tang Kuobian's identity. If he asks about it, we will all be found guilty of deceiving the emperor. At that time, not only will we not be able to avenge him, but we will also be implicated. That will be the last hope of revenge. Wanyan Ping suddenly became anxious. Then are we going to do nothing and let that bastard Wanyan Liang get away with it? Of course not. Gobai explained. Qing Shu has already started to avenge us. Wanyan Liang, that beast, has been plotting against us. Qing Shu has made him suffer a double loss. If your brother-in-law's spirit in heaven knows, he will be very happy. Wanyan Ping frowned. Making Wanyan Liang a cuckold is just fooling around. When are we going to deal with Wanyan Liang himself? Gobai replied. Qing Shu mentioned to me before that simply killing Wanyan Liang would not be enough to appease your brother-in-law's hatred. Only by breaking up his family, destroying his reputation, and destroying his family is the real revenge. As for the specific details, Qing Shu has not told me yet. Qing Shu is Qing Shu. You keep saying Qing Shu so intimately, as if he really is your husband. Wanyan Ping was immediately annoyed. He slept with you, but only drew you a few big cakes. My good sister, why are you so silly? Gobai smiled and shook her head. Qing Shu is a good person. After getting along with him for this period of time, I am willing to believe in him and also believe in my foresight. Wanyan Ping opened her mouth and finally shook her head helplessly. It's over, it's over. You have completely fallen. If brother-in-law's spirit in heaven knows that you have fallen in love with another man, he will be so angry that he will die again. Goodbye's face turned slightly red, and she couldn't help but say, "Humph. I get angry when you mention your brother-in-law. Isn't all this caused by him? If he hadn't set up such a trap, would I have slept with another man without even knowing it? What's more, when he became sworn brothers with me, he even made the most solemn oath on the grassland. You also know the customs of our Jurchen people. Now, theoretically, Song Qingshu already has ownership over me." Wang Yinping was angry on the surface, but she knew that this couldn't be blamed on her Jiejie. It was just that when she saw her Jiejie, who had always been in love with brother-in-law, had a face full of tenderness and sweetness when she mentioned another man, she couldn't quite get over it. The one in the heavenly prison right now is Song Qingshu? Wang Yinping was angry inside and asked with a pout. Goodbye nodded. No wonder he is so skilled. Thinking of the scene she had seen in the heavenly prison, she had been slightly dazed. But when she remembered that the other was Song Qingshu, who had created miracles in the past few years, and that the other had great martial arts, she understood. Suddenly, something popped up in her mind. Wang Yinping's expression changed. She looked at her Jiejie and said with a trembling voice, "Jiejie, did brother-in-law already pass away when he was in Kaifeng? Then the brother-in-law who appeared in front of us was Song Qingshu in disguise?" Basics Part 2. It was now noon on the 15th, and the total number of votes for this book was 550. Chapter 9:17. Goodbye nodded. Yes. That time, the person who went hunting with me was also Song Qingshu? Wang Yinping was both embarrassed and angry. She didn't know how to describe it to her sister. That day, I thought he was brother-in-law. With him. Goodbye pursed her lips, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. You finally realized it? You were laughing at sister just now. In the end, you were also muddle-headed and slept with another man without even knowing. Wang Yinping's expression was uncertain. She suddenly realized something and raised her head. Sister, you know what happened that day? Goodbye sighed. I only found out after the fact. At that time, I saw your sweet and happy expression and didn't have the heart to pour cold water on you. I could only tell Qingshu to stay away from you. Song Qingshu is a bastard. Thinking that she had carelessly given her virginity to him, Wang Yinping almost fainted from anger. What he did to us sisters, what difference is there between him and that beast, Wang Yinliang? Goodbye pursed her lips and teased. Who asked you to have bad intentions and keep thinking about your brother-in-law? This is the punishment that the heavens have given you. Hearing this, Wang Yinping was dazed and looked at her apologetically. Sister, are you blaming me for having improper thoughts about brother-in-law? Goodbye smiled and shook her head. We are sisters, and we have such a good relationship. I have seen your feelings for your brother-in-law all these years, and I have been waiting for you to ask me. As your sister, how could I not let you marry into the family? Who knew that you had a guilty conscience and wanted to be sneaky? I felt angry and funny at the same time. Since you like this, then I'll let you. Every time you came to find brother-in-law to go out to play, I turned a blind eye. I just didn't think that in the end, it would be Qingshu who took advantage of it. Don't mention that name. I get annoyed just hearing it. Wang Yinping pulled on her hair and was extremely frustrated. In her heart, Song Qingshu was just a very powerful and mysterious thief. She was both fearful and respectful of him. Who knew that in the blink of an eye, he would become her man? Thinking of him now, Wang Yinping felt complicated emotions in her heart. But I have no choice but to mention it. Goodbye rubbed her temples. It was obvious that she was also having a headache. He was sent to prison because of Chongqing King. If I hadn't begged him to release Chongqing King, he wouldn't have ended up like this. How could I leave him to die? Bye-bye, Jiejie. You also want to beg him? Wang Yinping exclaimed. I also went to beg him not to make things difficult for brother Chongqing Wang. Goodbye was also stunned. Looks like we sisters really have a telepathic connection. Wang Yinping humphed angrily. When I went to beg him, his attitude was cold. In the end, he ruled that Chongqing Wang was not guilty. I thought he was cold on the outside, but warm on the inside. He took such a big risk for me. I was really touched for a while. In the end, he did it for you. Goodbye could not help but laugh. What's wrong, Ping, huh? Are you jealous of me? Wanyan Ping's face reddened. Who's jealous of you? I only have brother-in-law in my heart. Why would I be jealous of him? Goodbye sighed faintly. I didn't think that us sisters were fated to be entangled with one man. First it was your brother-in-law, now it's Song Qing-shu. Wanyan Ping quickly waved her hand and said, That's what you think. I've only ever recognized brother-in-law. If you want to remarry, just remarry. I'll always observe mourning for brother-in-law. Girl, are you purposely mocking me? Goodbye couldn't help but laugh and scold. You haven't married your brother-in-law, and you haven't done anything with him. Why are you observing mourning for him? Your man is Song Qing-shu, okay? Wanyan Ping pouted and humphed. I don't care. I'll observe mourning for brother-in-law. Don't be ridiculous, Goodbye said with a headache. It's good to have me alone to observe mourning for your brother-in-law. You're still young. You can't waste your time like this. Wanyan Ping looked suspiciously at her. You'll observe mourning for brother-in-law? I see that you're living with Song Qing-shu right now, and you look like you're enjoying it. Goodbye spat, and her face reddened slightly. I've already discussed it with Qing-shu. In order for your brother-in-law to live forever in everyone's hearts, he will continue to live as your brother-in-law into Xingfu for a while and help your brother-in-law gain glory. Also, when we have a child, we'll let the child take your brother-in-law's surname. This way, your brother-in-law's reputation will not be damaged, and he'll have an heir. Wanyan Ping froze. She hadn't thought that her sister would think so deeply and thoroughly. She couldn't help but feel ashamed of herself. That person is willing to let the child take brother-in-law's surname? Wanyan Ping couldn't help but ask. In this world, unless there was no other way, no one was willing to let their child be adopted into another's family. Because once the child was adopted into another's family, it meant that the child had nothing to do with you. The child would only be responsible for the new family in the future. For example, the later Zhou Emperor, Chai Rong, had been adopted by the previous emperor, Guo Wei, and changed his name to Guo Rong. After that, all the official records stated that his surname was Guo and not Chai. Even after he ascended to the throne, he didn't think about changing his name back. He also didn't give any special treatment to the Chai family. As for why the later generations were more familiar with the name Chai Rong, it was because Zhao Kuan-yin didn't inherit the throne properly. The Song dynasty officials intentionally changed him back to his original name. This was to create an illusion that if the Chai family could take over the Guo family's country, then the Zhao family could also take over the Chai family's country. Hearing that her sister was only willing to use that person to replace Song Qing-shu, Goodbye knew that she hadn't gotten over it. However, it wasn't easy to forgive something like this when it happened to a woman. She didn't force it and only tactfully said good things for Song Qing-shu. Sister didn't think that he would agree so easily. He really is a very gentle man. At this point, she couldn't help but think of some scenes that made her blush. That man really was very considerate and gentle. Wanyan Ping couldn't help but snort. Don't think of him as so noble. He has such a beautiful wife, and he can play for free. He doesn't have to take any responsibility. If I was a man, I would also be willing. Goodbye couldn't take it anymore and grabbed her with a red face. You damned girl, how can you insult your sister like this? The two finally stopped after a while. Goodbye asked tentatively, You won't be unwilling to save him because you blame him, right? Wanyan Ping shook her head. I am a person who distinguishes between kindness and hatred. He did help brother-in-law. I won't leave him to die. As for him, I'll deal with him for bullying me in the future. But what else do we have now? Goodbye's face dimmed. Just now, I went to beg Imperial Brother. In the end, Imperial Brother not only didn't agree, he also decreed that I wouldn't be allowed to enter the palace again. Oh my, the number of books increased too fast. There were 111 chapters now, and 10 chapters needed to be added. It was a happy worry. Chapter 918. I came here to tell you something. Wanyan Ping said hurriedly. Just now, I went to the heavenly prison to break in. Goodbye hurriedly checked her from head to toe. Are you injured? Are there soldiers trying to capture you now? Seeing her sister's nervous expression, Wan Yinping felt funny and touched. Don't worry, it's not what you think. And she told her everything that happened in the heavenly prison. I couldn't figure out how brother-in-law did it, but now that I know he is brother-in-law, there seems to be nothing I can't figure out. That man is indeed capable. Wan Yinping recalled the information she had found about Song Qingshu over the past few years and couldn't help but feel a little lost. Yes, Qingshu is indeed a very capable man. Goodbye couldn't help but sigh. Wan Yinping came back to her senses and heard her sister praising him again. She snorted angrily. Don't really think of him as your husband. You always praise him. Seeing Goodbye frown, she hurriedly changed the topic. Since it's him in a heavenly prison, we really don't have to worry. With his martial arts, the heavenly prison can't stop him. He told me to come back and protect you. From his tone, he should have his own plans. Sister, you don't have to worry. Who's worried about him? Goodbye snorted insincerely. Wan Yinping curled her lips in disdain. I wonder who was the one who looked like she lost her soul just now. Well, you damn girl. You only know how to make fun of me. Good sister, my good sister, I was wrong, okay? The two sisters immediately started to quarrel. Wan Yin Liang angrily returned to the hailing palace. Xiao Yu and the other confidants were already waiting for him. Who made His Highness so angry? If it was someone else, they definitely wouldn't dare to provoke him. However, Xiao Yu is Wan Yin Liang's #1 confidant and also his #1 think tank. The two of them had a close relationship, so there was nothing to worry about. It's all because of that woman from Tang Qua's family, Wan Yin Liang said impatiently. He had nothing to hide from his confidants about Goodbye. As for Tu Danjing, she had always been aloof from worldly affairs and never cared about his affairs. Tu Danjing frowned slightly. Although she didn't care about these things, she couldn't help but remind him, Your Highness, now that a major event is approaching, you can't lose everything because of a woman. This prince understands. Wan Yinliang replied impatiently. Tu Danjing suddenly froze. She felt that there was a magical voice in her heart. Her eyes were dazed for a moment, and then she regained her clarity. Your Highness, actually, it is not difficult to obtain the song by. Oh, does Wang Fei have a way? Wan Yinliang was a little surprised. Although Tu Danjing had never asked him about women, she had never taken the initiative to participate in such matters. What was going on today? He quickly realized that perhaps she was worried that he would make a mistake, so it was better to get rid of this matter first. Xiao Yu and the other confidants all prostrated themselves in admiration of Wan Yinliang. They thought that if it was their wives who knew that they were thinking about other women, they should be thankful that they didn't fight it out with them. But Wang Fei actually took the initiative to pursue another woman for His Highness. His Highness's ability to control his wife was really admirable. Tu Danjing smiled slightly and explained, A woman like Goodbye is soft on the outside but hard on the inside. It is useless for Wang Fei to force her. It is better to show her kindness first and let her be grateful to Wang Fei. When a woman owes another man too many favors and has no other way to repay it, it is easy for her to be hot-headed and do something like repay the favor with her body. Cough, cough. Even though Wan Yinliang was thick-skinned, he couldn't help but blush when his wife spoke so bluntly in front of so many subordinates. How can I make her owe me a favor that I can't repay? In this world, the deepest hatred is the hatred of killing one's father or stealing one's wife. On the other hand, the deepest kindness is the kindness of saving one's life, the kindness of saving one's husband. Your Highness, although you have fallen out with Goodbye before, as long as you help her save her husband, she will have to owe you even if she doesn't want to. When the time comes, Your Highness will sincerely apologize to her for what happened before. Women are emotional creatures and will easily be moved by Your Highness, thinking that you have wronged Your Highness. At that time, with Your Highness's usual methods, wouldn't it be easy to chase after Goodbye? Moreover, Tang Quabian has been saved twice by Wang Fei. How could he dare to stop Wang Fei? Tu Danjing replied. When Xiao Yu and the others heard this, they all exclaimed in unison. As expected, women understand women the best. According to Wang Fei's method, Wang Yi will not only be able to obtain the body of Daigua's princess, he will also be able to obtain her heart. Wang Yanliang, on the other hand, had a strange expression on his face. He couldn't say it out loud. Usually, this method would work, but now he couldn't use it. Firstly, this method required a slow fire, and the effects would be too slow. He couldn't wait any longer. Secondly, neither Tu Danjing nor Xiao Yu knew about him and Tang Quobian's overnight exchange of spouses. Today, he had impulsively revealed what happened that night in Tang Quobian's residence. Gebai already hated him to the core. How could she accept him? This method takes too long. It's not suitable. Wang Yanliang could only use this as an excuse. Tu Danjing frowned and quickly said, "If Wang Fei wants it to be faster, there is a faster way." Wang Yanliang's expression changed. He suddenly became interested. "Jing, listen," Tu Danjing replied. "In order to make it easier for Gebai to accept Wang Fei in the future, Wang Fei must repay her for saving Tang Quobian. But how to save him is very important." Like this, Mo Wan, Yin Liang, and even Xiao Yu and the others became interested. They thought that Wang Fei, who usually didn't show off her talents, was actually such a powerful character. No wonder Wang Yi usually flirted outside, but Wang Fei's position didn't waver. Wang Fei is planning something big in the near future. Aren't you worried about how to deal with the Pucha family? You can use Tang Quobian to transfer the Pucha family's power away from the capital. Tu Danjing continued. How do we transfer them away? Wang Yanliang's expression turned serious. After many years of planning, everything was ready. All that was left was the final push. Once Chongqing Prince was removed, the only obstacle would be the loyal Pucha family. Most of the imperial guards in the palace were controlled by the Pucha family. Wang Yanliang had tried everything he could to win over the right deputy prefect, Pucha Adi. His brother, Pucha Adi, was the left deputy prefect. His status was even higher than Adi's, and he controlled more than half of the imperial guards. If a conflict were to break out, it would be hard to say who would emerge victorious. Chapter 919. Wang Yanliang had always been a person who planned things out before taking action. If he wasn't completely confident, he would never make a move. Thus, during this period of time, everyone had been vexed over this matter. Although he had used the incident at the laundry yard to express his goodwill to Pucha and Ahyut, the time was too short. This little bit of friendship was far from enough to pull Pucha and Ahyut's faction onto his war chariot. Thinking about this, Wang Yanliang hated Yang Guo to the core. He had spent so much effort to find Yang Guo and bring him back from the streets to acknowledge his ancestors. He had also pushed him into an important position in the Shanshu province. Firstly, he wanted to win over the Prince of Zhao, Wang Yanhonglia's faction. Secondly, he wanted to use Yang Guo's marriage to Pucha Qiucao, the daughter of Pucha At. When the time came, Yang Guo would be on his side. Even if Pucha At didn't help him, he would still remain neutral. Who would have thought that Yang Guo would run away at the last minute, causing all his efforts to go down the drain? Thus, when he heard that Tu Danjing had a way to lure away this loyal force, how could Wang Yanliang not be excited? Tu Danjing thought back to what Song Qingshu had told her, and her lips curled up. When Prince went to the Golden Snake Convention, didn't you meet the Mongols in an inn? That's right. Wang Yanliang's expression immediately darkened. When he had run into Zhao Min's group, although he had been very impressed by the legendary Princess Xiao Min, the Mongolians had many experts under their command, and he had been beaten into a sorry state. He had almost been unable to return, so that memory was not a pleasant one. I remember Prince saying that he saw the third-generation core disciples of Chongyang Palace having an ambiguous relationship with the Mongols. Tu Danjing asked. Chongyang sect's third-generation disciples, Yin Zhiping and Zhao Zhijing. There is news that Yin Zhiping is the next sect leader. Wang Yanliang's heart skipped a beat, as if he had caught on to his wife's thoughts. Tu Danjing smiled and said, "Isn't there a good reason? Colluding with the Mongols is the most taboo crime in the country. Let Tang Kuo atone for his crime and lead his troops to recruit the Chongyang sect. First, It will give the emperor a way out of this embarrassing situation. Second, we can use this opportunity to divert Pucha and Ahu's main forces away. When that happens, the entire capital will be under your control. Wonderful. Xiaoyu couldn't help but slap the table and stand up. Princess's plan is simply killing two birds with one stone. It's clearly solving the problem that we're having a headache over, and it's also giving Princess Dai a favor. It's really too wonderful. All right, let's do as Princess says. Wang Yanliang was also overjoyed. In the past, Emperor Taizong of the Tang dynasty had a virtuous empress, Zhang's son. Now, I also have a virtuous wife like the princess to help me. There's no need to worry about failure. He compared himself to Tang Taizong, and Tang Taizong was a figure who usurped the throne and plotted a rebellion. His intentions were as clear as day, but everyone here were his trusted aides, so no one had any unusual reactions. Following Wang Yanliang into the imperial palace, the imperial edict was quickly sent out. Because the Chongyang Palace was suspected of colluding with the Mongols, the Minister of the Left and Prince Consort Tangquil was sent to Mount Zhongnan to investigate the matter. He also wanted the Chongyang sect to accept the imperial edict. Because the Chongyang Palace had a large number of disciples and had a great reputation in the Wulin world, Wang Yinping was also sent along with the experts of the laundry yard to assist them. The left assistant inspector Pu Cha, who was also sent to lead 3,000 imperial guards in case of emergencies. The tone of the imperial edict was strict, and at the same time, it was very urgent. It was for the relevant personnel to immediately set out once they received the imperial edict. Song Qing-shu was deep in thought. It looks like Wang Yanliang can't wait to make a move. Because Song Qing-shu was in the imperial prison, he needed to go through a series of procedures. When he was ready to leave the city, the others were already waiting outside. Seeing Wang Yinping among them, he couldn't help but think, after the last incident, the laundry yard's strength has been greatly damaged. I didn't think that Wang Yanliang would still send away the remnants of the laundry yard strength. He is indeed very cautious. Gobai was also waiting there. When she saw him, she couldn't help but excitedly run over and throw herself into his arms. Husband, at the same time, she lowered her voice and said, Qing Shu, you must be careful on the road. Sending you to Chongyang Palace was Wang Yanliang's idea. He definitely doesn't have any good intentions. Song Qing Shu thought, in the end, this is all part of my plan. But now that time is pressing, he didn't have time to explain in detail. He could only comfort her. Don't worry, with my abilities, Wang Yanliang won't be able to harm me. I'm actually a bit worried about you. Although I've already sent people to secretly protect you, you must also be careful. Don't go out for a while. Strengthen the guards in the palace and wait for me to return. Okay. Goodbye wanted to say something, but stopped. She looked at Wang Yinping, who was not far from her, and a crafty smile appeared in her eyes. Remember to take good care of Ping, for me. Okay. I will definitely protect her. Although Song Qing-shu felt that Goodbye's tone was a bit strange, he didn't think too much about it. Instead, Wang Yinping coughed and said, Brother-in-law, everyone is waiting for you. Hurry up and go. She purposely emphasized the word brother-in-law and winked at Goodbye. After the initial excitement of seeing him, Goodbye remembered that the two of them were being watched by thousands of people. She couldn't help but blush and push him away. Song Qing-shu also felt a bit embarrassed. After saying goodbye to her, he hurriedly caught up with the main group. Only Goodbye was left in the same place, quietly waving goodbye to the gradually fading silhouette. At this time, Wang Yin Zhongjia, who was hiding in the shadows, snorted and said, That heartless person didn't even think to say goodbye to us when he left. Pucha Elihu couldn't help but laugh. I told you to read more books. The words heartless are almost flirting. How can a girl say that so casually? Are you going to be jealous of your aunt? Wang Yanjunja pouted and said, In the past, I always heard people in the capital say that aunt and uncle's relationship was very good, but now it seems that's all there is to it. Aunt's heart has already been tied to another man. Young Master Song is a heaven-sent genius, and he's also extraordinarily handsome. It's normal for your aunt to fall in love with him. All right, stop looking. I'll head back first. Protect your aunt well, Pucha Elihu warned. I know. Wan Yin Liang impatiently waved her little hand. After main group left the capital, Song Qingshu first chatted with Pucha Elihu for a while, then found an opportunity to call Wan Yin Ping over. Pinger, come here for a moment. I have something to ask you. Wan Yin Ping puffed up her cheeks and rode over. Pinger, do I know you that well? Song Qingshu was stunned. Are you still angry at brother-in-law? Bah! Wan Yin Ping spat. You really think you're my brother-in-law? Oh, so you already know. Song Qingshu smiled bitterly. If he still couldn't figure it out by now, he might as well buy a piece of tofu and kill himself. I'm really sorry for what I did to you before. I'll take responsibility for it. Who wants you to take responsibility? Wan Yin Ping's face reddened. I'll settle this with you later. First, tell me, why are you looking for me? The third time. Chapter 920. Song Qingshu couldn't help but be startled. Wan Yin Ping didn't yell at him. It has to be said that this kind of thing could be a big deal or a small matter. If one wasn't careful, it could destroy a woman's happiness for the rest of her life. Was Wan Yin Ping's reaction so gentle because she was a girl from the plains and had a more open mind than the girls from Jiangnan? Hey, why do you keep staring at me? Seeing him staring at her, Wan Yin Ping finally couldn't help but blush. Because Ping Er, you're so cute. Of course I can't bear to look away. Song Qingshu replied with a smile. Pa glib tone. A pure girl like Wan Yin Ping was also the opponent of an old driver from the future who had seen the essence of human art. Just one sentence was enough to make her unable to bear it, and she directly rode away on her horse. Wan Wan Hua Ba. Square root P. Square root P. Song Qingshu couldn't help but be proud of his charm. It has to be said that when the same words come out of different people's mouths, it gives a woman a different feeling. If a man with an ugly appearance dares to flirt with a girl, he will be called a pervert and given a slap. Only a man with high charm can make a girl's heart beat like a deer and pout coquettishly. It's clear that I belong to this type of man. Watching Wan Yin Ping's beautiful back as she left, his gaze gradually moved down to her perky buttocks on the horse's back and her long, well-proportioned legs. Song Qingshu sighed inwardly. In terms of looks alone, Wan Yin Ping might not be able to compare to her sister and Madame Peach Blossom, but her body is brimming with the aura of spring that the other two do not have. As for the question he wanted to ask, there was no need to rush. No matter what the answer was, he wouldn't be returning to the capital for a while. It would be better to find her after setting up camp at night. Following that, Song Qingshu purposely used the excuse that he had been tortured in the imperial prison and his body could not take the strain to slow down the entire team. Seeing that there was not a single wound on his body, Pucha, Ahu, and the rest's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Who are you trying to fool by saying that you're injured? But since they were all in the same circle, they would still give face to each other. Moreover, the imperial edict did not specify a specific time for them to complete the mission. Pucha and Ahu treated it as a sightseeing tour. As for the lower-ranking soldiers, they were even happier. After all, which soldier would be willing to march dozens of miles in a hurry? Not long after, seeing that the sun was about to set, Pucha ordered the army to set up camp. Wan Yin Ping found a quiet hill by herself and sat down with her hands on her knees. She looked at the setting sun in the distance and thought about how her beloved brother-in-law had died without a sound in Kaifeng. Two streams of tears flowed uncontrollably down her face. Princess? Princess? A man's voice came from behind her. Wan Yin Ping hurriedly wiped away the tears on her face and turned around with an unfriendly expression to look at the tall youth walking over. Master Pucha, didn't I emphasize to you many times that you can only call me Big Head and not Princess? Master Pucha smiled bitterly. Princess, after what happened last time, the core of the laundry brothel was completely annihilated. Only a few of us are left, and the Emperor has no intention of rebuilding the laundry brothel. Right now, the laundry brothel only exists in name. Wan Yin Ping was immediately displeased. Shut up. As long as there is one person left in the laundry brothel, it will not disappear. Although she often acted like a little girl in front of Song Qing-shu, in front of others, she was known as a cold-blooded queen. Even though her reputation was not as great as before, she still spoke impolitely to her former subordinates. Do you know why I don't want to call you Big Head, but Princess? Master Pucha smiled bitterly. Wan Yinping frowned. Why? Because when I call you Big Head, it makes it seem like there's only a cold relationship between the two of us. But when I call you Princess, it seems like our relationship is much closer. Master Pucha's eyes burst with a fiery passion. Wan Yinping clasped her hands behind her back and said lightly, "Do you like me?" Master Pucha did not expect her to be so direct and choked on his words, his dark face turning red as he stood there in embarrassment. After a long time, he came back to his senses, as if he had made up his mind. Wan Yinping immediately became impatient. What I do? If you have nothing else to say, I'm leaving. Seeing that she really turned to leave, Master Pucha immediately became anxious, the words in his heart blurting out. That's right, I like you. Wan Yinping paused and turned around to look at him. Are you done? Master Pucha was still in the excitement of his confession and subconsciously replied, I'm done. Then I'm leaving. Wan Yinping took another step forward. That, Master Pucha hurriedly called out to her. Princess, did you agree? Wan Yinping frowned. What did I agree to? You agreed to my proposal. Master Pucha was dumbfounded. No matter how slow he was, he could tell that something was wrong. You're crazy. I don't like you. Wan Yinping took a few more steps. I know that you like your brother-in-law, Princess, but that's impossible. Hearing Master Pucha's words, Wan Yinping suddenly turned around. What did you say? Master Pucha gritted his teeth and gathered his courage. The laundry brothel started out as an intelligence agency. Who in the laundry brothel doesn't know that Princess has feelings for Tang Quobian? Everyone just doesn't say anything, but Princess Tang Quobian is already your sister's son-in-law. Since ancient times, there's never been a case of two princesses marrying the same son-in-law at the same time. So the two of you are destined to have no future together. Whether I have a future or not is my business. You don't need to worry about it. Wan Yinping's tone was as cold as ice. Also, if any word of this gets out, I won't let you off. Princess, don't be so stubborn. Seeing that his dream lover was determined to hang himself, Master Pucha became anxious. What's so good about Tang Quobian? Whether it's martial arts, looks, or even family background, how can he compare to me? A cold light flashed in Wan Yinping's eyes, and a whip at her waist flew towards his face. Although her attack was unexpected, Master Pucha was known as the #1 expert of the younger generation, and his reaction was fast enough to grab the end of the whip. Let go. Wan Yinping tried to retract the whip, but it didn't budge. No. Master Pucha's stubborn temper flared up. Just as the two were in a stalemate, Song Qingshu's voice came from the top of the hill. Ahem, did I come at the wrong time? The two turned around and saw that it was him, and they both had strange expressions on their faces, pulling back their hands at the same time. Song Qingshu saw this and smiled. It's fine. If you want to continue fighting, I'll leave after saying a few words. He then turned to Wan Yinping. Pinger, come to my tent tonight. Under Master Pucha's dumbfounded gaze, Wan Yinping nodded. Okay. Chapter 4 more. My total monthly votes are 1289, and I need to add 14 to 15 chapters. Chapter 921. Song Qing couldn't help but smile when she agreed. Before leaving, he waved at them. I'll be going first. You guys can continue. Seeing the look on his face, Pucha almost died of anger. If not for the fact that the other party was the commander of this operation, he might have already rushed up to him and let him know what it meant to have a fist as big as a bowl. Wan Yinping's mouth twitched as she stood to the side, wishing she could just whip him. You like this kind of man? Pucha asked in disbelief as he pointed at Song Qing's back. Wan Yinping replied coldly, I don't like him, and is identical to, less than or equal to at. P. Isn't he your brother-in-law? You still won't admit it, even at this point? Pu Cha felt like his heart was about to break. Wan Yinping was also having a headache. She knew that this brother-in-law was actually Song Qing in disguise, and she couldn't just let outsiders know about it. After thinking for a long time, she still couldn't think of a way to explain it, so she decided not to. Think what you want. Seeing her indifferent attitude, Pu Cha felt helpless and could only change the topic. Are you really going to his tent tonight? Of course. Wan Yinping thought about how Song Qing purposely asked her a question before, but because she walked away, he didn't get to ask her. He probably asked her to meet tonight because of this. Of course, she wasn't interested in explaining this to an outsider. You're really going? Pu Cha panicked. A man and a woman alone in the middle of the night? What a scandal. He's my brother-in-law, my relative. What's wrong with talking to me? Wan Yinping was puzzled. Pu Cha almost choked to death. After a long time, he finally said, What can't you say in the day? Why do you have to say it at night? It's obvious that he has ulterior motives towards you. So what if brother-in-law really has ulterior motives towards me? Wan Yinping looked at him strangely. I don't mind. After saying that, she couldn't be bothered to talk to him anymore, leaving Pu Cha in a daze. I don't mind. I don't mind. Wan Yinping's last words echoed in his ears, causing him to receive a critical hit. Soon night fell. Wan Yinping paced back and forth in her tent. Although she had acted cool in front of Pope, she couldn't help but let her imagination run wild. What if he really makes a move on me? Should I resist, or should I not resist? On one hand, she thought that the two of them had already been intimate, so there was no point in resisting. On the other hand, there was another voice in her heart. She had only treated him as her brother-in-law before, but now that she knew he wasn't, of course, she couldn't let him do as he pleased. Wan Yinping finally made up her mind and hid a chastity guard in her short skirt. She thought that if he really tried to touch her, she would cut him. With this thought, she felt much more comfortable. She got up and walked out. Song Qing was watching from inside the tent. Suddenly, he heard the sound of hesitating footsteps outside the door. He couldn't help but laugh. Is it Pinga? Since you are already here, why are you afraid of coming in? Who's afraid? Having been seen through, Wan Yinping directly barged in. Also, don't call me Ping. Are we that close? Song Qing revealed a thoughtful expression. After a while, he nodded and said, I've touched every inch of your body. From this, we should be quite close. Wan Yinping didn't expect him to be such a pervert. She was so angry that her body trembled. It would have been better if you didn't mention this. You tricked me in my body. I still haven't settled the debt with you. Who are the people going to Chongyang Palace this time? Song Qing wisely changed the topic. What? The change in topic was so big that Wan Yinping didn't know how to react. Song Qing repeated the question and then added, This question is very important. It concerns whether or not I can successfully avenge you and your sister. Even though she was extremely angry, hearing him say it so seriously, Wan Yinping could only reply, There's me in the laundry yard. You saw Pu Cha Shijie and Fu Sanhu too. Then there's the left assistant inspector, Pu Cha Ahu. You saw him before. He brought some of his subordinates. I think his daughter Chiu Chao is also in the army. I heard that they came out to relax, but I didn't see them. Other than that, Wan Yinliang also sent his trusted disciple Dan Jun with a group of people to supervise the army. Song Qing nodded his head. This was more like it. If he was Wan Yinliang, he wouldn't be at ease letting this group of people escape his control. He sent the head of the 4 bodyguards, Dan Jun. It seemed like this was to prevent the army from suddenly returning to the capital. Seeing Song Qing remain silent, Wan Yinping couldn't help but snort. Hey, are you done with your questions? There's one last question. Song Qing looked at her with a smile. If I remember correctly, you were wearing a set of long pants before, but now you've changed into a beautiful dress. Are you wearing it for me to see? Wan Yinping paused, and then her face turned red. In reality, she didn't realize this. She was hesitating whether or not she should come over. Who would have thought that she would unknowingly change into a dress? Don't be so smug. Can't I wear it for myself to see? Wan Yinping said with a red face. That's a pity. Song Qing shook his head. Now that I think about it, I miss the girl who was so obedient to me. Hey, you took advantage of me. If you didn't pretend to be my brother-in-law, I wouldn't have treated you like that. Thinking about how passionately she was under him that night, Wan Yinping wanted to find a hole to hide in. But before your brother-in-law died, he gave his woman to me. If you don't believe me, your sister has blood as proof, Song Qing responded. Since you think you're your brother-in-law's woman, then you're my woman now. Wan Yinping was confused by his words and knew that the blood he mentioned was the truth. Even though she knew it wasn't right, she didn't know how to refute it. She could only say angrily, "You're twisting words." How was this twisting words? Song Qing smiled. Legally, you belong to me. In reality, your body is already mine. Of course, from the current situation, your heart doesn't belong to me completely. But I'm confident that before long, I'll be able to obtain your heart. Wan Yinping was so angry that she laughed instead. I've never seen such a shameless person. Song Qing said unconcernedly. A thin-skinned man is destined to not have a woman's favor. Thinking about it, I'd rather be a shameless person. Hey! Wan Yinping felt that if she stayed any longer, she would faint from anger. She turned to leave. Where are you going? Song Qing called out to her. Of course I'm going back to rest. Wan Yinping looked at him in confusion. Song Qing shook his head. Stay here with me tonight. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.